Chapter 823. Qin Guang didn't argue with Wenwen for long before he hurriedly hung up the phone. There weren't many candles left. Tonight he had already coaxed Lu Fei to sleep alone. If he still couldn't get some feeling out of it, it would really be a double loss. Silently looking at the three big words Jin Ping Mei on the phone, he moved his eyes away again and again. Although Wenwen's suggestion was more vigorous, he didn't want to admit that he was so cliché. The old man was a person with a goal and a realm. Even if he was reading erotic books to get the feeling, he had to read something a little more serious. That praying mat was so straightforward, so explosive, and had such a large scale. It should be severely criticized. How could it be used to practice martial arts? The old man was lecherous but not obscene, lecherous but not lascivious. Even if he was a thief, he had to be a refined thief. That's right, it was Xiao Mei. He opened Jin Ping Mei, and then quickly turned the page. He went straight to the exquisite description of the most intense battle between the Golden Lotus and official Ximen. It was really a fierce battle. The sky was dark, the moon and the sun were dim, the wind was blowing, the clouds were surging, and the earth was shaking. In short, the feeling was very strong. Under the pull of his subconscious and the 7-star candle array, he almost completely fell into it. However, after another 10 minutes, when he thought he had completely burst out of his emotions and was about to start activating his inner strength, something went wrong again. The tide-like feeling that he had accumulated with great difficulty suddenly faded away without warning. At this time the candle had burned to the last half and could only last for about 10 minutes. Lu Ming, I think you're holding me back. You see, I'm already reading erotic books. Right, I admit it. Compared to the Song of Righteousness, I'm indeed more suitable for erotic books. Then shouldn't you let go of little Qin Guang? I was almost there and should have been breathing to activate the sense of qi, but after being pressured by you, my heart is like still water. Don't make me waste time. Lu Ming, this emperor is very happy that you can correctly recognize your own nature, but this matter really can't blame me. Although I'm suppressing your pile driver now, the reason is that you're not focused enough and excited enough. If you really meet the requirements of this painting scroll, the seal I placed on you will naturally be broken. Now that you are still lacking, it can only mean that Jin Ping Mei is not powerful enough. Wenwen understands you better. The book she recommended for you should be just right. Do you really have to rely on meaty futons? That's right. Qin Guang lowered his noble head. Tuanzi, so be it. Anyway, he had already given up. Something must have gone wrong with him and he had chosen the wrong path. He wanted to be a righteous hero, but he was mercilessly labeled as a walking pile driver. He picked up the book and with a resolute and stirring mood he quickly flipped to the classic passage in the classic Jade Dumpling, and began to judge it with grief and indignation. Time passed quickly and the candlelight swayed gently. There were fewer and fewer candles left, and they gradually showed signs of extinguishing. The light also became dimmer. But in the eyes of the righteous young man Qin Guang, these hazy candlelight became brighter, as if they had turned into beautiful naked people. As the flames twisted, these little people also posed in all kinds of seductive poses. His breathing became heavier and the little people in his eyes also became bigger. When he looked up, it seemed to be right in front of him, but when he reached out to grab it, it seemed to be far away. In fact, a normal erotic book should not have such an ability. With Qin Guang's willpower, if he had been prepared, he would not have fallen into it. But now, in order to practice the painting volume, not only did he let down his guard, but he also took the initiative to strengthen his comprehension in his mind and strengthen his artistic conception. With the support of the 7-star white wax array, the illusion became more and more violent. If it was a normal successor of the Wen family, he would have gradually entered the state of mind of the author of the Song of Righteousness, or Rivers Run Red, and a strong sense of justice would be born in his heart. He would feel injustice for the poor people, hate the heavens for being unfair, and shoulder justice with the world in his heart. But for Master Guang, who had entered the Tao by reading erotic books, he could only say no. This time Lu Ming did not disturb Qin Guang but secretly cheered him on. In fact, the little trick she used on Qin Guang with her divine power was more like setting a ruler for Qin Guang than suppressing him. The painting volume was profound to mortals, but in front of deity emperors like Lu Ming and Lu Li, there was no secret at all. With just a glance they could completely see through its mysteries. The strength she used to suppress Qin Guang's pile driver was exactly the same as when Qin Guang's emotions were stimulated to the standard. When Qin Guang was completely immersed in the article, His invincible piledriver regained his freedom and raised his head to the sky. Finally, the last drop of wax was burned out of the 7 candles and they suddenly went out. The lights in the room immediately dimmed. Qin Guang threw his phone on the bed beside him and slowly raised his head. His eyes actually glowed slightly in the dark night. Little Qin Guang, on the other hand, fiercely pushed his loose pajamas out of the tent. He succeeded but also failed. At this time his mind could be said to be empty, without the slightest superfluous thought, except for love and lust. So far, the women who were not too ordinary with him appeared in his mind one after another like beautiful scenes in a kaleidoscope. They were all naked, twisting their graceful bodies and extremely charming. The poor Wen family's painting volume, a good orthodox martial art, had actually been practiced by him to such an unorthodox way. In fact, this was also one of the reasons why the Wen family's painting volume was never circulated. Of course, not everyone in the Wen family was good and not everyone was awe-inspiring and righteous. But with the family's bloodline, even if they had all kinds of distracting thoughts, they could still rely on the Wen family's bloodline to correct their behavior. Even if the Song of Righteousness was ineffective, the other articles chosen were mostly bold and unrestrained. And even if there was a deviation, at most it would be the Book of Songs and Songs of Chu, and it would not deviate to the side of erotic books. But Qin Guang was not a member of the Wen family and his style was also very improper, and now there was a problem. Although he prided himself on being righteous and could control his actions most of the time, his bold and unconstrained mind always liked to let his wretchedness run wild in the wilderness of his mind, like a wild horse galloping unrestrainedly, advancing 1,000 miles in a day. Anyway, it was not against the law to think about it in the mind. It was not like I would lose a piece of flesh if I fantasized about it. I have used all my strength to barely be upright, and I can't be allowed to control my free and unrestrained thoughts. Anyway, no one else would know. Now, even if he deceived the world, he still could not deceive his own heart, and his true colors were revealed in front of the painting volume. Wen also did not expect this situation. When she first gave him the secret manual, it was because she felt that just the outer force alone would be enough for Qin Guang to spend more than 10 years. This secret manual was only a prop to attract him and divert his attention, so that he would not be hot-headed and want to get involved in his own Jianghu disputes all day long. Moreover, Qin Guang's age had long passed the best age for martial arts practitioners to shape their appearance, and the hope of him achieving anything was even slimmer. As for whether or not Qin Guang would be able to master it and how long it would take for him to feel qi, Wen did not care at all. Even if you beat Wen to death, she would not have thought that this guy was the true son of destiny, and that he had the heavenly holy grail, which was a cheat and could forcibly make the impossible possible for him. As for recommending jade, that praying mat, to Qin Guang, she did not really believe it because she understood Qin Guang, and knew that this kind of unconventional writing was suitable for him. Praying mat was considered an ancient book with some background, and it was definitely better than Young X Purity, Young X Guest, and Golden Scale, right? If he were to master those books, then it would really be the family's reputation and the family's misfortune. Recommending praying mat was just to avoid the worst outcome. All in all, with countless coincidences, Master Guang really succeeded in defying the natural order tonight. He started to build his physical body at the old age of 20. And in just a short 2 months his physical body had reached perfection, which was far beyond the body quality required by the authentic painting volume. Now his physique index was off the charts. Using the Song of Morality as a standard, his comprehension was originally not enough, but after changing to an unorthodox path, he was able to kick an exquisite curve ball, and his comprehension index broke through the sky. Less than 5 minutes after the white candle extinguished, a little mouse, Qi, was born in his dantian, and began to run rampant in his body, passing through all the veins in his body. Everywhere it went, his muscles trembled and his veins expanded as if there was a surge of heat. His nature-defying physique allowed him to completely break Wen's painting volume record of activating Qi in the fastest time. Strictly speaking, it only took him 15 minutes. He succeeded on his first try, and it was extremely violent. If Wen was a genius that only appeared once in 100 years, then Master Guang was a godly talent that surpassed the ages and dazzled the contemporaries. However, Qin Guang did not feel happy at all, and he did not even realize that there was qi in his body that was flowing along the veins in the first stage of the painting volume. There was no other reason than that he was about to explode and he was completely dumbfounded. If one often walks by the river, how can one's shoes not be wet? He was lazy and stole a new realm and used tricks to get the fake scripture. If one were to bring the martial arts of the evil sects to the Jianghu in ancient times, it would simply be a crime against the world, a treason. Even now, Lian Qing was a member of the evil sections. The lascivious but not lascivious Master Guang had no choice but to lower his head to the true grievance. He had been guided by the painting volume. Reason told him to be a righteous youth. However, reason was being rubbed against the ground by the kaleidoscope in his heart. This feeling was somewhat painful and torturous. He gritted his teeth. According to the painting volume, when activating qi, the cultivator would indeed be deeply affected because he would be completely immersed in the text. There was a possibility of some small problems happening if he entered the Tao with erotic books, but he was confident that he had seen all kinds of storms. At worst he could just take a cold shower. However, he had neglected 2 points. First, most people who practiced the painting volume cultivated righteous qi, and no one had practiced with erotic books. No one had told him how to deal with such a situation. Second, he was not an ordinary man, but a walking cannon Qin Guang who possessed a peerless artifact, the world's strongest pile driver. Heavy firepower was like a nuclear weapon. Once it was completely unsheathed, it would reveal its ferocious face. It was not something that could be suppressed easily. However, he still planned to rely on himself. That's right, I want to prove that the painting volume was wrong about me. Although my method of cultivation is wrong, I am definitely a righteous person. I will never lower my head to evil. Evil will never prevail over good. Waves of sky-devouring flames were born in the void, rushing straight to the top of his head. He could not help but let out a low howl. At this moment, Lu Minggua's extremely sinister voice suddenly rang out in his heart. Little brat, why do you have to make life difficult for yourself? I said before that you can have both fish and bear's paw. Think about the room next to yours. Don't you want to have Fei-Fei? Qin Guang groaned in pain and argued with Lu Minghua in his heart. No. Okay, I want to, but I have already asked Sister Lu Fei to go to sleep. Lu Minghua sneered even more sinisterly. But she has already heard your struggle and groan. She is about to knock on the door. What? As soon as Lu Minggua's voice fell, banging sounds came from Qin Guang's bedroom door. Outside, Lu Fei asked cautiously, Qin Guang? Grand Magister right, Qin? What's wrong with you? Are you okay? I heard you groaning in pain. Qin Guang's face stiffened. It's over. Opening the door, looking at Lu Fei who was only wrapped in a bath towel, he thought to himself, I am controlled by the devil to open the door. My hands and feet are completely out of my control. This is not my fault. In the next second he supported the back of his neck with his right hand, leaned his elbow on the wall, and leaned his body at a 70-degree angle with the ground. His face bloomed with a bright smile like that of a grandmother wolf. Hey, dear Madame Lu Fei, I am indeed a little uncomfortable. My face and mouth are also controlled by the devil. Chapter 8:24. You've already eaten the bear paw and the taste seems a little strong. Now you need to eat a fish to adjust the taste. Qin Guang, don't disappoint this empress. Sister Lili and I both feel that you have too strong a human scent. You really should be more straightforward when doing things, have less scruples and be more domineering. Qin Guang was still struggling in his heart as he muttered, You're sending me on a path of no return. Dear Cry chuckled. What nonsense are you spouting? Where's the truth? But the path is chosen by you. This empress only helped you make a small decision when you couldn't make up your mind. If you don't believe me, listen to what your mouth is saying outside. The real devil is you. Outside, Lu Fei walked into the room and looked at him worriedly. Not well. Where is it? Didn't you say you wanted to meditate? I just did a search and it seems that meditation can't be disturbed. Even I don't dare to disturb you. Don't tell me you've gone berserk? Qin Guang frowned slightly, and an inexplicable melancholy bloomed on his face. It was as if Marlon Brando had become young again and appeared in front of Lu Fei. He supported himself with one hand on the door frame and slowly bent down, looking straight into her eyes. Beautiful Madame Lu Fei, Your Excellency's guess isn't too accurate. Magicians are different from the people who practice martial arts in this world. This can't be called berserk. It should be called magic power disorder. Oh, magic power disorder? It sounded very serious. Then is there anything I can help you with? Lu Fei clenched her hands in front of her chest, making a heart shape. Her eyes were filled with stars and she was electrified by Qin Guang. Although Qin Guang had never won with his looks, and the reason why Lu Fei had taken a liking to him had nothing to do with his self-proclaimed handsome face and nose, as the saying goes, pan and is in the eye of the beholder. In this situation, Lu Fei already had evil intentions in her heart, and coupled with Qin Guang's cheating acting skills, he was like a spark of lightning in Lu Fei's eyes. He was so handsome that he looked like a beam of light. Although women rarely chose men purely based on their appearance, who would mind if their sweetheart was a little more handsome? What's more, Qin Guang's handsomeness had reached a whole new level. I can't take it anymore, he's so handsome. I'm going to faint from his handsomeness. Why was it like this? My heart is beating so fast. I can't breathe. Who would have thought that I, the great Lu Fei who prided myself on being knowledgeable, would actually have such a Mary Sue day? This is a stain on my life. But then again, was I blind in the past? Why didn't I notice his handsomeness earlier? Forget it, that's not important. What's important is that I was interested in him because of his talent, and now looking back I didn't miss out on his handsomeness. It's just that I used to think that talent was the main course and handsomeness was just a freebie. It didn't matter whether the freebie was worth money or not. Now it seems that I was really blind in the past. That was buying the casket and returning the pearls. His looks were the main course hidden under his superficial talent. Qin Guang was still smiling faintly, but from time to time he would slightly frown, showing the pain he was suffering at the moment. He then used an extremely magnetic voice and said softly, "Lu Fei, you can indeed help me now." As he spoke, his head drooped lower and lower, and the breath that came out of his nostrils blew directly on Lu Fei's face. Qin Guang's heart had never been so complicated before. His stubbornness made him not want to admit that this was him, but the words that came out of his mouth, the expressions on his face and the movements of his body were completely out of his control. He was indeed completely dominated by the devil, but unfortunately the devil was himself. It's hard to guard against a thief in the house day and night. I'm full of righteousness but I've lost to myself. Yo, I didn't realize that you're quite interesting when you act cool. I say Lu Ming, it's already late, you should go to sleep. I'm a little disgusted by the current situation. Also, how is this acting cool? I'm really handsome, okay? You're not acting. Well, then you're really lustful from the bottom of your heart. Alright, I admit that I'm acting. If going back on one's words is a curse, you shouldn't be holding your head down right now. I'm begging you, I can't control it anymore. Really, you should go and rest. The next scene is going to be inappropriate for children. Lu Ming, go to hell, do you think I want to see you that much? Goodbye, goodbye. If it weren't for this emperor working hard to help you today, giving you ideas and controlling the limits, would you be able to eat fish and bear paw together? You're really an ungrateful ingrate. Goodbye. This restless and fruit-bearing Lu Ming finally stopped moving. Qin Guang didn't know if she was really hiding or pretending, but it didn't matter. Anyway, he couldn't do anything to her. Whether he was really acting or whether his heart was thinking and his body was moving, Qin Guang actually knew. The so-called quibbling was actually just a dead duck's mouth being stubborn. Men, they all cared about their face. How could they easily admit defeat? It's impossible that just because you say I'm an old pervert, I'm really an old pervert, right? Even if you're not wrong, I can't just shamelessly admit it right away, can I? Really, if you don't say it out loud, leave me a little face. But to be honest, the current Sister Lu Fei looks really delicious. So tempting. I can't take it anymore. Hurry up and leave. Leave this place. Stay away from me. Sister Lu Fei, let's go to bed together and talk about life. I'm sick, my illness is called an incurable terminal illness that can't be cured by killing without love. Two voices rose and fell in his heart. One was him who was upright, the other was him who was a gentleman. In his heart no one had the upper hand, but his body was completely gentlemanly. A gentleman was invincible. Lu Fei quietly reached out and closed the bedroom door, her back tightly pressed against the wall of the entrance. She was no longer afraid, but raised her eyes and looked straight into Qin Guang's eyes. No matter how this guy used his strong and overbearing aura to oppress her, she didn't move. Yes, that's right, I'm Lu Fei. I've never been afraid of anyone. This annoying guy, he really tortured me tonight. First he left me hanging, then his magic power disorder. Such a big thing happened, his brain is almost out of order, but he's still bashful and unwilling to tell the truth. You only know how to make me fall here, you only know how to act cool, making my little heart beat so fast that it's about to have a heart attack, but you don't take the next step. Do you want to torture me to death? Do you think I haven't read novels or watched TV series? I don't know what magic power disorder is, but in my eyes you're burning with desire. You need to balance yin and yang. You should be more straightforward, pick me up and throw me on the bed. Sai, you're really a little brother. You're really good at pretending to be experienced, but you're not straightforward at all. Fortunately you met me, sister. I'll let you see what sister's real skills are. She smiled charmingly. Say it, how can I help you? Say it. Do you want to eat me? Qin Guang was caught off guard by Lu Fei's sudden counterattack, and his heart was already in complete despair. It seemed that Sister Lu Fei couldn't leave. He secretly swallowed his saliva, his Adam's apple moved, and he vaguely replied with a word, yes. Lu Fei fiddled with her long hair again, gently pulled the bath towel a little and slightly raised her eyebrows. If you eat me it'll be fine? Qin Guang swallowed again. I can't take it anymore, I can't take it anymore this time. Lu Fei suddenly pulled the bath towel away completely, and her beautiful figure was completely exposed in front of Qin Guang. She was still smiling. Then why don't you say thank you to me? Qin Guang's mind exploded with thousands of thunderbolts. Because of watching Jade Dumpling, the boundless flames that were aroused soared into the sky, completely burning every inch of space in his mind. He gritted his teeth. Thank you. Being hugged by Qin Guang by the waist, little by little approaching the bed, Lu Fei's heart was filled with lingering pride. Look at you, you still want to fight with your sister? With a little trick from me you'll be exposed. Monkey son, how can you escape from this goddess's palm? But then again, the magic that he learned as a great magister didn't seem to be proper. Although he used to be lecherous, he had never been in a state of extreme loss of control like today. Today's change must be because of the magic disorder that he mentioned. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Otherwise, with this kid's bashful and indecisive temperament, God knows when he would reach this step. Just as she was thinking like this in her mind, her body was lightly empty. She was placed on the bed by Qin Guang, sprawled on her back. Her unspeakable posture made Lu Fei a little bashful, but she quickly calmed down again. With a blush, she looked at Qin Guang and said, Then from today on, in addition to your identity as a great magister, I have another secret with you? Qin Guang grunted, Yes, Sister Lu Fei. Why don't you call me beautiful Ms. Lu Fei? I think you may prefer Qin Guang to write Qin. You're really sensitive and considerate little Qin Guang. You're right, a magician from another world is like Snow White's Prince Charming, but I still prefer that generation's god of speed who moved my heart. Do you still remember what I said to you in Xianxia? I said, if you can do it, not only can you conquer the entire racing world, you can also conquer me. Now is the time. This is my reward for you for being late. Qin Guang was greatly moved in his heart. For a moment he actually suppressed his soaring desire. He slowly sat on the edge of the bed and turned his head, not daring to look at Lu Fei. After a long while he said, Sister Lu Fei, you're so good to me, Don't say thank you. You've just said it once. You know me, so there's no need to feel burdened. I, Lu Fei, always do what I say. Dragging it to this day is already my failure as a human. But don't think that I'm so easy to fool. What I want is not just today. Once you've boarded my boat, it won't be so easy to get off. There's still a long way to go. You can't always look at me with the mentality of who owes the other. You only need to know one thing. From the moment I sat in your car at Fengquan Mountain, my heart only beats for you. That's enough. Men and women don't owe each other so much. It's fine as long as you're happy. As Lu Fei spoke, she turned over and pressed Qin Guang down on the bed. She leaned over and stared at him with a pair of beautiful eyes. Compared with other women, Lu Fei really had an extraordinary ability to enlighten people. If Jiang Yage had half of Lu Fei's eloquence, Qin Guang would have already been pressed to the ground by Jiang Yage. Qin Guang took a deep breath. I understand. It's good that you understand. But you're sweating all over now. Go take a bath first. Finally, in the battle with him, Lu Fei completely gained the upper hand. She was extremely proud and ordered with the aura of a queen. She didn't want the most profound first impression of this guy to be the smell of sweat. She didn't think that this would be the last time she would be domineering tonight. When Qin Guang was taking a bath, she provoked the fire. 10 seconds later she saw stars and rolled her eyes. She directly fainted in the bathroom. After half an hour she woke up. Poor Qin Guang was holding on with a red body and a painful face. Lu Fei knew that he was afraid that she couldn't hold on, so he forcefully endured the magic disorder, and didn't want to torture himself anymore. How can I admit that I can only hold on for 10 seconds? I don't believe it. She turned over and fought again. 15 seconds, dead. Another half an hour passed. She fought again and again. 20 seconds dead. Are you still human? I don't know how to explain it. You should control it a little. This is so difficult. I can't control it now. Could it be that my body is too weak? No, I'm too strong. Then didn't you laugh at me for being weak? Another half an hour passed. 30 seconds still dead. I can't. Lu Fei felt that her brain was about to explode. She couldn't hold on anymore. She really couldn't. This was the first time. She had already gone all out and put her life on the line. But if this continued, she would probably be sent to the hospital tomorrow. But this guy didn't feel relieved. Instead, he was in more and more pain. Not again. Qin Guang pushed her away in pain. You can't continue anymore. You will get hurt. What could be more tragic than this? He had a body full of amazing martial arts and he had the strength to conquer thousands of soldiers. It was not easy for him to find a suit of beautiful armor that fit him, and he was just waiting to put it on and fight the enemy. Unfortunately, his martial arts was too high. The armor couldn't bear the old man's strength. But you haven't. It's okay. I'll go out and run a lap. You can't do this. It's not good for your body. Moreover, you have a special reason. I want to help you. I didn't expect that I'm so weak. It's okay. It's not a big deal. You can't just blow me up, right? It's not your fault. It's my own problem. What problem? To be honest, you can also see that my ability in this aspect is so strong that I'm afraid of myself. Lu Fei argued. So if it backfires, the consequences will be more serious. Qin Guang's temples were bulging. He was really in pain. I understand the reason, but you really can't hold on anymore. Even if you are willing to sacrifice your life to accompany me, you can't sacrifice yourself in vain. Wait a minute. I have an idea. Lu Fei suddenly clapped her hands. What? Qin Guang asked in confusion. Lu Fei sat up, lying on her stomach like a puppy. She turned around and looked back with an evil smile. There's another place. I shouldn't faint. Gulp. Qin Guang swallowed his saliva again. An hour later. Lu Fei, see, I'm not bragging, right? You've worked hard. You're welcome. Let me see. Don't move. It hurts. Chapter 825. The next morning. Well, Sister Lu Fei, I have to report to school today. I have a makeup exam in the morning. Qin Guang felt quite embarrassed. Logically speaking, he had tortured Lu Fei so miserably last night. Today should have been the day for them to continue to spread their feelings. However, he had directly missed many courses last semester. If he missed the makeup exam again, he would really have to take it again. With his current status, a mere bachelor's degree was really not worth mentioning. If he really wanted to be thick-skinned and think of a way to get a graduation certificate, in short, he just had to think of a way to get a graduation certificate without taking an exam. But he felt that there was something wrong with this. Even if this graduation certificate was not important, no matter how high his status was now, he really did not want his past 12 years of hard work to become a meaningless thing. If he really did such a thing and relied on power to get a graduation certificate that should not have belonged to him, then there would be no difference between him and people like Pan Jiang. It would also be a vote to deny the first half of his life from his childhood to the present. Even if he knew that privilege seemed to be able to control these common and seemingly irresistible rules in life, and he had now become one of the top few privileged classes, he was really unwilling to really use the privilege in his hands to destroy the creed of life in the past 10 years. No matter what others thought of him and no matter what other privileged classes thought of his life, Qin Guang felt that as a person, there were things he should do and things he should not do. In addition, didn't Xianxia also cram for the Buddha's feet before the exam with him and others? Didn't he also cry like a ghost and howl like a wolf when he failed a course? Didn't he also secretly copy notes together during the exam? During the winter and summer holidays when he failed a course, didn't he watch others play games with tears in his eyes while he read textbooks? Xianxia was born into the privileged class. He was one of the largest privileged classes in the country, but he forcibly lived as an ordinary person. This was not easy. It was easy to know but difficult to do, which was worthy of admiration. Qin Guang and Lin Jingwei knew each other well. He did not want Lin Jingwei to look down on him because of this. Apart from that, his parents, who knew which country they were currently traveling in, had warned him again and again before he left that he couldn't become famous. Although modern society was no longer a place where studying was the only thing that mattered, you had been working hard for more than 10 years and finally made it to your senior year. You were about to graduate. Don't pee on the bed at dawn and drop the ball at the critical moment. In a sense, his parents' views were still at the level of ordinary people. They didn't know that with Qin Guang's current power, it would be a trivial matter for him to get them a graduation certificate. However, the two elders had a good saying: "Do you want to know what it's like to fight men alone? Want to know what mixed doubles taste like?" Qin Guang expressed that he did not want to. He didn't want to experience mixed doubles, and he didn't want to be looked down upon by Lin Jingwei. What could he do? He still had to take the makeup exam. Lu Fei struggled to get up from the bed. She glared at him and said, "In your dreams. You have things to do, but I have things to do." Qin Guang said, "Huh." Lu Fei stretched. "After you fell asleep last night, I called the investigation team in Wutua again. They have no idea what happened yesterday. In their memory, they inspected several mining areas in Wutua town according to the original plan. As for me, Director Lu, I said I had something urgent to do and went straight back to Wujing." Qin Guang nodded. "Is that so?" He was not surprised. After the punishment world was shattered, the few of them returned to Wutua for a short rest. The streets were peaceful. People came and went, and the residents and tourists in the town were as usual. It was impossible to tell that this place had undergone a drastic change. Perhaps only the boss of the store that Qin Guang stole twice would feel that he had lost his clothes. As for everyone else, they weren't aware of it at all. The sun rose as usual, and there wasn't any difference between today and the past. Then I called my dad again, and he scolded me harshly. He asked me why I left halfway through the inspection and where I went. Sure enough, it was as you said. He didn't remember that I had asked him for help. And then, what did you say to your dad? Nothing much. How could I tell him that I left my business behind and ran out to meet you? I could only joke around with him. But I bought a plane ticket this morning and I have to rush back to Wutua at noon. Qin Guang was speechless. But you. As he said that, he looked at Lu Fei's smooth and round but with a meaningful look. Lu Fei blushed. What can I do? It's not that easy to be rich. How do you think my family got tens of billions of assets? Back then, my dad got into a car accident and broke a leg. The next day, he had to go to the conference room in a wheelchair to negotiate with people. Didn't that all come from him? What's with this little problem of mine? After saying that, she got up from the bed and prepared to put on her clothes. Ouch. She had just taken a step when she held her stomach with one hand and her butt with the other. She froze. Qin Guang supported her. Why don't you rest for a day? I'll come back after the makeup exam at noon. Lu Fei shook her head and continued to move forward. It's fine. I'll be fine after a few steps. Let me see. Oh my God. It's red and swollen. Which place are you talking about? 2. Are there any wounds? Are there any blood vessels? Nope. That's fine. The swelling will go down if I walk more. No, you really have to rest. Impossible. If I don't go to Wudo today, my dad will die of anger. Qin Guang found that he couldn't dissuade this workaholic. Looking at Lu Fei struggling to move around the room, curling up in front of the mirror to dress up, he thought of something. Why some rich people are getting richer and some poor people are getting poorer and poorer. The poor feel that they are poor because society is wrong. It's the fault of the times. It's because the rich are born too well and seize the resources that they should have. In the past, Qin Guang also believed in this theory. When he saw Lu Fei and Zhong Bai addicted to racing, he only thought of these people as ignorant and incompetent rich second generations who only knew how to squander. But later, especially today, looking at such a stubborn Lu Fei, he probably understood something. Perhaps not every child of a rich family can be like Lu Fei, but it's not without reason that Lu Fei, the big sister in the circle of rich children in the 5 capitals, can get the support of everyone. At least the people who often hang out with her are not useless. As for Lu Fei herself, although she rarely bragged about what she did and what achievements she had, even managing a subsidiary company of Lu Chemical and only losing 500 million a year became a capital to brag about. But looking at her now, Qin Guang understood that it wasn't easy for her to manage this company. As the saying goes, men who work hard are especially handsome. In fact, women who work hard are also very handsome. Lu Fei simply tidied up. She usually didn't put on makeup, but her dark circles were a little heavy today, so she put on a little more eyeshadow. Sai, look at your waist, it's about to break when you walk. I really feel sorry for you. Qin Guang rubbed his hands. Sai, Sister Lu Fei. Don't apologize to me. If you do this again, I'll really be angry. Hey. Let's go eat. Don't you look at your watch? The university exam is at 9 in the morning, right? It's almost 8:20. Qin Guang was about to help Lu Fei out of the room when the door suddenly opened. Looking up, it was Wu Miaowan. Wu Miaowan was holding a bowl of medicine in her hand, and there was a small ceramic tube in a plastic bag hanging from her wrist. Little Miaowan, this is... Wu Miaowan first closed the door, then chuckled. Come, Chief Magician, it's been hard on you. Then she handed the bowl of medicine to Lu Fei. Sister Lu Fei, drink it while it's hot. Both Qin Guang and Lu Fei were still in a daze. Wu Miaowan took out the ceramic bottle from the plastic bag and opened the lid. A minty fragrance wafted into their nostrils. Sister Lu Fei, for external use. Use it now, immediately. I guarantee that your swelling and pain will be reduced in 2 to 3 hours. What's going on? Qin Guang was extremely puzzled. Wu Miaowan put everything down, then sat on the sofa and crossed her legs. You're still asking me? Last night when I left with my sweetheart, the two of you were exchanging flirtatious glances. My sweetheart and I aren't blind, we could tell at a glance that something was up. And then my sweetheart and I were halfway through our work at the station when she sent me back. My little sweetheart said that our big chrysanthemum elder is an animal. He brought his own mortar. Even with her high level of kung fu, she almost died. Sister Lu Fei, although your body is considered tough among ordinary people, you definitely won't have a good time. My sweetheart, let me brew medicine for Sister Lu Fei. Isn't it useful now? I was in the room next door, but the two of you were so noisy that I was blushing. Qin Guang and Lu Fei, how King embarrassing. Wu Miaowan saw the two of them fidgeting and chuckled. You two are still shy? What's our relationship? The three of us are the only team in this world that can prove Grand Magician Right Chen's identity. We share a big secret. We're on the same side. Unlike Lu Fei, Wu Miaowan seemed to care more about Qin Guang's identity as a Grand Magician. It seemed like her desire to learn magic hadn't died yet. Even though Qin Guang had hinted that his magic cultivation method wasn't too proper, not only did she not seem to mind, she even became more enthusiastic about it. Xianxia was really something. She was really meticulous. She had already considered this point in advance. All right. I'll go back to the station first. My sweetheart can't handle it alone. With that, Wu Miaowan slipped away again, pretending that nothing had happened. Qin Guang and Lu Fei looked at each other for a few seconds. Lu Fei burst out laughing. Xianxia was right. You're full of love tribulations. In my opinion, Wu Miaowan won't be able to run away. Qin Guang quibbled. Are you kidding me? Little Miaowan and I are pure. We're just shallots mixed with tofu. You're pure now, but she won't be able to run later. You're not pure anymore. Sigh. What do you mean by sigh? You're still pretending to be innocent after getting what you want. Otherwise, why do you think Xianxia asked Wu Miaowan to come back instead of herself? That's because Wu Miaowan is the successor of Thousand Flower Valley. She's especially good at alchemy and medicine. Really? Qin Guang began to lose confidence. Maybe it's true? Actually, Xianxia and Lu Fei had thought this through very thoroughly. Just as Wu Miaowan said, the three of them knew the same big secret about Qin Guang. Apart from that, there was no point in hiding anything from Qin Guang. Instead, it would just create unnecessary ill feelings for no reason. It was better to take advantage of the perfect timing and make things clear from the beginning. When they got along in the future, they could do whatever they wanted. There was no need to hold it in and torment each other for no reason. Although Xianxia seemed to be unreliable, she was very meticulous at critical moments. Lu Fei was also quick-witted. She instantly understood Xianxia's intentions. She understood that this was the reason why she asked Wu Miaowan to come back. Only Qin Guang's mind was frozen in the middle. Idiot, don't be stupid. Help me apply the medicine. I'm in a hurry to go out. Let me do it. What else? I can't see it myself. Hurry up, I'm warning you. Don't give me any more trouble. I really have to go to Wutua town at noon. Hey, trust me a little. Do you think I don't know how serious I am? It's not like I'm completely dominated by my lower body. Xen Qin already said that you're a mortar. I think you're a missile. Your words are especially unconvincing. About 7 or 8 minutes later, the two of them finally went downstairs. Needless to say, the secret recipe of Thousand Flower Valley that Wu Miaoan had personally brewed was really effective. Lu Fei's movements were much more agile in the time it took to go downstairs. He did not know what the ingredients of the plaster she brought were, but it was definitely a very expensive medicine. It was not until he sent Lu Fei to a taxi and made sure that there were staff from Lu Conglomerate waiting at the airport that Qin Guang felt at ease and headed to school. Standing at the school gate, his mind was momentarily muddled. A summer had passed and he stood in the same place, but his state of mind had long changed. This summer vacation had been too fulfilling and rich. Too many things had happened. If nothing went wrong, he would not be able to see Wenwen in this school for a while. Forget it. No matter what, now that the shattered world had been destroyed, the only things left in his heart were those restless martial artists and the former director of the Special Affairs Bureau Ouyang Tianxing, whose whereabouts were unknown and whose fate was unknown. But it didn't matter. Now that the old man's inner force had been formed and he held great power. He had the army under his control and he had the favor of the old masters. I don't believe that I can't deal with the remnants of the Jianghu even with the strength of the entire country. What's more, Wenwen's martial strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Although he did not know what had happened to her, Wenwen herself was strong enough. On my side, be it top-notch martial strength or military configuration, I'll crush you without explanation. Whoever comes, I'll destroy them. As he displayed his ambition in his heart, he returned to his dorm to pack his bag and head straight to the makeup exam classroom. However, when he pushed the door open and entered, the first words from Bai Nyangzi and Bai Fan hit him hard. "Oh, Brother Guang. Long time no see. I just looked at the exam schedule. You'll be taking the Modern Chemistry Basics 4, right? How's your revision going? You've had quite a fulfilling summer." Qin Guang's face paled. Modern Chemistry Basics 4? What was that? Why did it sound so familiar? He seemed to have heard someone mention it not long ago, but when he thought about it carefully, it seemed so far away. "Don't talk to me, I want some time alone, and don't ask me who quiet is." Damn it. Completely. No. Review. I've forgotten. His lofty aspirations vanished in a puff of smoke in an instant. In his daze, he could vaguely see the familiar mix of a man and a woman dancing wildly in front of him like the stars in the sky. This time it was really a hard landing. Damn it. Chapter 826. Liuli. Are you online? Not online. It's okay, I'll do it myself. Heavenly Holy Grail. Hurry up and give me a Modern Chemistry Basic cup. What? I don't have enough faith points. Oh right, yesterday I gave the Holy Grail just the right amount of faith points. In order to fill that small pond, I squeezed it dry. Stiffly calculating the 400,000 points of faith in the Heavenly Holy Grail, Master Light felt that he really couldn't decide whether he should accept it or not. The beggar version's minimum requirement was 600,000. After a day he had 400,000 faith points in his hands. He couldn't even reach the beggar version's standard, so he could only watch anxiously. "Brother Guang, why are you in a daze? Your book is here." Bai Fan looked at Qin Guang's dazed expression and walked up to him like a ghost, waving his hand from time to time. Qin Guang came back to his senses. He was infuriated by Bai Fan's blind arrogance. He took the book from his hand and turned around. "Shut up. My Weibo advertisement fee starts at 600,000, and there's no upper limit. Since you're my friend, I'll give you a 20% discount. It'll be 800,000 per advertisement. Now you owe me 6 million. Wait for my lawyer's letter." After speaking, Qin Guang turned around and left. Even though he knew he was joking, Bai Nyangzi wailed behind him. "No. Brother Guang. I was wrong. Let's do it again sometime." As soon as he opened the door, Lin Jingwei and Xiong Jingke walked in from outside, talking and laughing. Xiao Linzi was even carrying the breakfast for Bai Fan. "Brother Guang, are you going to make up for the exam? Come on, I have to say this Modern Chemistry Basic 4 is really not easy. At the end of last term we were passing notes around. There were a few questions that required Gaoye to pass the class monitor's answers back to us. We only managed to get some answer points, but we didn't get any process points. I don't know what kind of medicine the chemistry maniac took, but the questions he came up with are so difficult. Lin Jingwei stuffed the breakfast bag into Qin Guang's hand and said, "By the way, have you had breakfast?" Bai Fan snatched the bag from Lin Jingwei's hand. "Stop fooling around. Didn't you see Brother Guang's greasy mouth? This is mine." On the other side, Xianxia had already rummaged around in his backpack for a long time. He took out a few pieces of paper and handed them to Qin Guang. He spread out his hands and said in a low, muffled voice, "Brother Guang, these are the pieces of paper we used for last semester's exam. Take them. Maybe the questions will be the same." Qin Guang was so angry that he almost laughed when he saw his third grandson's seemingly warm concern but was actually secretly delighted. Go, go, go. Go to hell. Don't waste my time anymore. Grandpa, I'm going to take the exam. After cursing, Qin Guang turned around and left. Damn it. The so-called bad friends were referring to these three people. When one side was in trouble, all sides would like to praise them. Brother Guang, you have to work hard. All of our dormitory members passed last semester's exam. You are our only child. Don't ruin the golden body of our dormitory. Lin Jingwei waved his hand at the door of the dormitory. He looked like he was cheering him on, but in fact he was showing off his threat. Bai Fan added, "I heard that if you don't fail a subject, you can participate in the excellent dormitory selection and get 2 months of electricity free." Xiong Jinka said again, "I didn't even pass a subject. These three bastards, 2 months of electricity is nothing. At most I will pay for it for you." The most hurtful thing was that Xiong'er said, "I didn't even pass a subject. If I fail a subject, doesn't that mean I am worse than Xiong'er? How can I raise my head? You three bastards, watch carefully. If I really die, I will hang myself on the southeast branch. I won't come back. I will commit suicide to apologize to the world. Okay, I promise I won't embarrass myself." After that, Qin Guang went downstairs. Bai Nyangzi and the other two looked at each other. Bai Fan said, "Don't tell me we've gone too far?" Xiong'er said, "If I fail a subject, I will hang myself. If Brother Guang really dies like this, we will have committed a great sin." Lin Jingwei waved his hand carelessly. "It's okay. Good people don't live long, but scourges live for thousands of years. For a disaster like Brother Guang, if he doesn't live for tens of thousands of years, his reputation will be ruined." "Listening to you, it sounds like he is a scourge." Bai Nyangzi asked curiously. Lin Jingwei nodded and said meaningfully, "In a sense, he is indeed a scourge." Bai Fan said, "I will repeat what you said to Brother Guang, if he can still be shameless after the exam." Qin Guang jogged all the way to the first floor. Just when he was about to go upstairs, he saw Sun Xiaoxuan and Gaoye looking around as if they were looking for someone. "Who are you looking for?" Maybe they were too focused on looking for Qin Guang, but they didn't notice Qin Guang even when he was behind them. "Are you trying to scare us? When did you sneak up here?" Gaoye shrieked and turned around to scream. Sun Xiaoxuan was like a thief, trying his best to make Gaoye pee. Gaoye quickly calmed down and pulled Qin Guang and Sun Xiaoxuan to a corner. "These are GoPro glasses. Put them on first. I've already asked someone to modify the camera kit. It's embedded in the frame so it won't be seen. Xiaoxuan and I have already scouted the place. Later your exam table will be near the window and Xiaoxuan and I will be on the roof over there. The exam will be synchronized to our phones. Xiaoxuan will be in charge of answering the questions and I'll be in charge of raising the bar. If there's 1 bar, I'll choose A, if there's 2 bars, I'll choose B, and so on. The multiple choice question is done." Gaoye lowered her voice and said in a secretive tone. No wonder the two of them were acting like thieves. They wanted to help him cheat. Especially Sun Xiaoxuan, a beautiful South American girl, was forced to become a beautiful female cat burglar. Qin Guang was not making a random analogy. Sun Xiaoxuan's face was as red as a ripe peach. It was the first time in her life that she was going to participate in such a large-scale cheating operation. She was nervous. Qin Guang took the high-tech glasses and was speechless. It was one thing for Gaoye to do such a thing, but Sun Xiaoxuan, an honest person, was also led astray. Look at how nervous she was. He asked, "What about the fill-in-the-blank questions? How are we going to compete?" Gaoye was stunned for a moment. Then she glared at him. "You wish. The multiple-choice questions are already 60 points. What fill-in-the-blank questions are you talking about? How am I supposed to compete? Qin Guang nodded. That's true. Gaoye clapped her hands. All right then, let's get to work. I really don't know how you got so lucky that Xiaoxuan actually agreed to help you cheat. Sun Xiaoxuan's face turned even redder. This isn't Qin Guang's fault. He could have passed last semester, but because of this and that, Gaoye interrupted him. All right. I didn't say anything wrong with your man. I know. Sun Xiaoxuan rubbed her hands and said with a trembling voice. Qin Guang saw that she was so stiff that she looked like she was about to explode. She looked like a statue that was about to shatter when she moved her hands. Are you really going to help me cheat like this? Without a doubt, it was not Sun Xiaoxuan's idea to cheat. It must have been Lin Jingwei and Gaoye's idea, and then Gaoye dragged Sun Xiaoxuan here. With Sun Xiaoxuan's personality, she would never have thought of doing something like this. As I look at her, forget about helping me cheat, I'll be thankful if she doesn't get a heart attack later. She even helped me with the questions. It's really hard on her. Qin Guang stuffed the glasses into Gaoye's hands and shook his head. Forget it. It's fine. I'll do it myself. How can I let the class monitor cheat for me? Gaoye stared at him. You'll do it yourself? Can you do it? Sun Xiaoxuan said worriedly. Yeah, you won't have time to study this summer, right? You basically skipped all the classes last semester. Even if you did hug the Buddha's leg before the final exams, you'll still forget about it after the summer. Qin Guang smiled confidently. Of course it's fine. I'm a genius. Really? The two of them were doubtful. However, Qin Guang had already made up his mind. He turned around and went upstairs. His heart was bleeding. The straight-A student Sun Xiaoxuan was helping him cheat. This kind of thing was really tempting. However, Qin Guang did not want to be a stain on Sun Xiaoxuan's life because of him. If he was caught using high-tech glasses, it would be the same as substituting for an exam. Normal students would be expelled or given a major demerit. If it were him, he might be able to pretend that nothing had happened. However, it did not feel good. It was no different from getting in through the back door without taking the exam. The most important thing was that Sun Xiaoxuan was so nervous. Her brain must be spinning. She might not even be able to solve the questions as accurately as his dice. Don't torture her. What should I do? What's wrong with him? Isn't he always so frivolous? Why does he have to be so particular about cheating? Gaoye was a little unhappy. She felt that her good intentions were taken as malicious intent. Sun Xiaoxuan did not know what to say. Maybe he doesn't want to put me in a difficult position. Gaoye nodded. Yeah, that's possible. Sai Xiaoxuan, isn't it just cheating? You weren't even this nervous when you were a hostage in the US. Sun Xiaoxuan shook his head. It's different. It's really different. I don't know what's going on. As I look at you, forget it. It's good that he's dead. You can give him another round of tutoring later. What? What else can he do? Look at him now. He's a senior and he only has one chance next semester. How can he focus on studying? Who else can he count on? But he clearly looks very confident. He's faking it for you. You really believe him? Qin Guang did not know what people were talking about him behind his back. He was sitting by the window with a dark expression. Of course, he did not need to consider the consequences when he was bragging. But when he sat down and looked at the thick envelope in front of the invigilator, he felt dizzy. As the saying goes, a dead duck is reluctant to admit its mistake and suffer for its pride. This was generally referring to his current situation. Qin Guang sighed. Even he himself did not think he could pass the exam, let alone Lin Jingwei and the rest. What was more annoying was that the invigilator knew him. Yo, brother all-rounder. Qin Guang, I heard you were a student in our school. I didn't believe it. I didn't expect it to be you. Hi, teacher. Can I get your autograph after the exam? Sure, no problem. Oh right, I won't go easy on you just because you're a famous person. You know, famous people have their own public image. I believe in your ability. I'll take care of you during the exam today. Don't let me get hold of you. I've wanted to be famous for a long time. Thank you, teacher. The whole family. He did not say the last two words. *CK, luckily I didn't use the GoPro glasses. This guy is quite young, he definitely knows what he's doing. When the exam papers were handed out, he looked at the piles of formulas. His mind was completely muddled. Everything was low grade, only the passing grade was high. This was difficult to complete. Oh right, according to the power of the 4 computers in the dormitory, how much would the electricity cost for 2 months? I might as well calculate this. He picked up the heavenly holy grail, which was wrapped in a new gangster rabbit mug, and took a sip of tea as he muttered in his heart. Beg me, I'll help you with the questions. At this time, Lu Mingwa started to cause trouble in his mind again. Stop messing around. It's annoying. I'm not messing around. I have a super good fighter here. She's sleeping now. If you beg me, I'll wake her up. Who? Super genius scholar Nicosia Tepster. This can be done. At this moment Qin Guang's eyes lit up. I'm begging you, my beloved sister Lu Mingwa. In front of the passing grade, integrity and whatnot, just go with the wind. 30 seconds later. I just asked her. She said you have to beg her too. I'm begging her. Sister Nicosia. Bad. F asterisk seek. So fast. She didn't even look at the exam paper. This emperor is just randomly saying, don't take it seriously. F asterisk seek. Dear sister Lu Mingwa, you really have a sense of humor. Chapter 827. For Nixie, this level of difficulty in modern chemistry wasn't a problem at all. After all, the Daoist family was famous for explosions and self-detonations. Although the people in this family majored in physics, their level of knowledge in chemistry wasn't bad. On the contrary, it was even higher than many people. It was just that the self-detonation family's achievements in other areas were too high, so their knowledge in chemistry was slightly overshadowed. A mere university course was just a trifle. Nixie was very unhappy. She felt that doing this kind of question was an insult to her intelligence. Furthermore, ever since he failed to kill Qin Guang, he became Qin Guang's accomplice after he self-detonated himself to kill Qin Guang. Thinking about it made her so angry. But there was nothing she could do. She had no choice but to lower her head when she was under someone else's roof. Not to mention, this wasn't just under someone else's roof. She had been dragged into some huge incident. There were 2 gods living in this guy's cup. As a mortal who had been dragged into this, she was trembling, alright? But this wasn't all bad news. Nixie knew that in a sense she might have gotten a great bargain. No matter how long a mortal's lifespan was, they would eventually die of old age. But now that she seemed to be dead, it was possible for her to obtain eternal life. This was a great opportunity. This was the light of good luck that only the protagonists in novels had. Unfortunately, from what the 2 goddesses had said, it seemed that everyone's lives were tied to Qin Guang. If he died, everyone would die with him. Now that she had become his accomplice, she had no choice but to help him. She had to treat him like a treasure, afraid that he would melt in her mouth, afraid that she would lose him in her hands. Just like yesterday in that unlucky town, in order to help him complete the mission, she had no choice but to fuse herself with the equipment and then self-detonate. It was really tiring. Alright, that could be considered an incredible event. After completing it, he felt a great sense of accomplishment. His understanding of divine power and dimensions had greatly deepened, and he had gained quite a lot. Although it was a little tiring, it was worth it. But today, the undying soul of the machinery hive mind, Nixie, was reduced to helping someone take a modern chemistry basic exam? This is ridiculous. But I just can't refuse. How infuriating. As for Qin Guang, in fact, Sun Xiaoxuan was cheating when he took the exam for Qin Guang. Nicole was also cheating when she took the exam for Qin Guang. There was no difference in essence. The only difference was that asking Sun Xiaoxuan for help would torture her and put her in danger. However, if Nicosia in the cup were to make a move, it would be impossible for her to see through him. The Holy Grail is mine. I am the master of this Grail. Perhaps my soul has an indescribable relationship with this Grail. In that case, can I treat the Holy Grail as a part of my body? Could the person in the cup be considered a part of the old man? Just like my fingers or toes. My fingers help me with the exam. Does that count as cheating? Impossible. What the scholars did, what the lords of the 3,000 worlds did not count as cheating, it was necessary. Just like the ancient emperors, if they wanted to govern a country, they naturally could not do everything themselves. They had to learn to know the right people and use their millions of people and court officials to help them solve their problems. Right now I am the emperor. Liuli and Lu Ming are my generals and prime minister respectively. As for Nicosia, she is the old man's vanguard general. Now I will send her to help me lead the troops to behead this barbarian called modern chemistry 4. The most despicable people are invincible. Lord Guang displayed this 6-syllable mantra to the fullest. The invigilator did as he said. He focused on the school's current celebrity, Qin Guang, and did not give him the slightest chance. From the moment the exam papers were handed out, he had been circling around Qin Guang the whole time, as if guarding against a thief. From time to time he would even look out of his window. If Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ye did as they thought, they might really be caught red-handed by this dutiful invigilator. However, his view of Qin Guang quickly changed. This young man does not seem to be simple. Not only does he stir up trouble outside the school, but he also does not seem to fall behind in his studies. He actually lay on the exam paper the whole time and did not even lift his head. In addition, this guy's mental arithmetic ability is too strong. There is not a single word on the draft paper in his hand. He only glanced at the questions and then wrote down the answers. He also solved the questions so quickly that it made people's hair stand on end. He finished one question in 10 seconds. The young invigilator immediately looked at Qin Guang in a new light. He is indeed the all-rounder. I lost. Half an hour later, the time to hand in the exam paper arrived. Qin Guang stood up from his chair and hit the chin of the invigilator who had been standing next to him and watching him skim the questions at lightning speed. Teacher, I'm handing in the paper. You're already done? The invigilator had not recovered from his daze. He rubbed his chin. Qin Guang handed the exam paper to him. Here, you're done. The invigilator opened his eyes wide and took a closer look. Sure enough, he found that the test paper was filled with a bunch of conversion formulas. At that moment, everyone else in the exam room had already turned to look at him. The invigilator did not pester him anymore. He took the paper and left. He is indeed the all-rounder. In the huge exam room, pairs of admiring eyes looked at Qin Guang. If he was really a shameless person like Qin Hui, he would probably accept these gazes calmly. However, old Master Guang still had his pride. Brothers and sisters, this time it really wasn't my doing. Don't worship me. The old man felt guilty. His roar in his heart was useless. No one could hear him. Instead, they worshipped him even more because of his humble and amiable expression. This made him feel a little awkward and out of place. Forget it. Let's get out of here. He shrunk his neck and quietly left. When he went downstairs, he found Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ye still waiting downstairs. Oh my God. Have you already given up and handed in your paper early? Gao Ye didn't say anything nice when they met. Sun Xiaoxuan began to comfort him. It's okay. It's not your fault. You can just take it again next semester. But you still have 4 makeup exams after that. You have to work harder to study. I'll help you. Here's the makeup plan. Take a look. No, I've tried it. Qin Guang saw that Sun Xiaoxuan had really taken out the plan and quickly clarified. Originally, he wanted to strike while the iron was hot and practice the sense of inner strength that he had painstakingly grasped. If he really dragged Sun Xiaoxuan into some kind of revision plan, then wouldn't these past few days be a complete waste? Although studying with Sun Xiaoxuan was quite fun, the matter of the inner force martial artist was not over yet. If he didn't become stronger, what if those reckless guys came up with a plan to decapitate him? Who would he look for to reason with? After all, he was now in a high position. He was the current director of the Guangding General Administration. He was someone who could command the country. He completely fit the criteria of the decapitation plan. To be honest, he was a little panicked. Qin Guang looked at the vague figures in the distant woods. They were probably the martial artists or secret agents sent by the general administration to protect him. There was no way to escape. But that was not enough. He didn't want to put his life in the hands of others. So he had to make himself stronger as fast as possible. He had to be strong enough that he wouldn't be afraid of threats. He had to be clear about his priorities. Past? Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ye's eyes widened. They thought there was something wrong with their ears. Qin Guang nodded. Yes, I passed. I wasn't bluffing. But it's only been half an hour. Gao Ye yelled. Sun Xiaoxuan was also puzzled. He was considered fast at answering questions, but it took him 1.5 hours to finish last semester's final exam. However, Qin Guang was still resolute. I will definitely pass it. If I fail, I'll hang myself. When he called Lin Jingwei and the other 2 out for lunch, they all looked at him as if he was a lunatic. Qin Guang slammed the table and roared, "Take this. The results will be out the day after tomorrow. If you don't believe me, you can see for yourself." Why would I brag about something like this? Lin Jingwei said, Brother Xiaobai has a friend who runs a counseling agency in Wujing. Brother Guang, why don't you come with me to take a look this afternoon? You're seriously ill. You've already anesthetized yourself to this extent. Bai Fan said, I have to go take a look. I heard that some people will keep reminding themselves that the things in their fantasies are real after receiving a huge blow. This is called self-anesthesia. If you anesthetize yourself too deeply, you'll start hallucinating. It's very scary. Xiong'er said, I used to be like this when I was young. I recovered after getting beaten up by my dad. Sun Xiaoxuan said, don't scare people. Qin Guang won't do this. But there's no harm in taking a look. You won't lose anything anyway. If it's someone you know, he won't mind. Bam. Qin Guang slammed the table heavily. Why don't you believe me? Lin Jingwei also slammed the table. Brother Guang, we don't believe you. I know most of the things you've been busy with this summer. Who would believe that you have time to read books? The rest of them nodded. Gao Ye suddenly leaned over and looked at Qin Guang as if he was a thief. Tell me, how much money are you going to pay the invigilators, the teachers who set the questions and mark the papers? Qin Guang was trembling with anger. You're all frogs in a well. You don't know your place. You're insulting my character. It was no wonder he was not angry. Although it was good that these guys were the engine, they were obviously holding him back when he wanted to practice his inner force. In the past, whenever I wanted to do something, there would always be people like you who looked down on me. But now their faces have been smashed to pieces and are hanging on my wall of honor. I had thought that with so many painful lessons laid out in front of me, no one would dare to doubt my ability anymore. But I never thought that trouble would arise from within. You people who are on my side would actually doubt me? After his outburst, Qin Guang stared at them angrily and said loudly, Come on. The next test is on the principles of chemical engineering, right? Sun Xiaoxuan nodded. That's right. It's the principles of chemical engineering. Obviously, she was very concerned about Qin Guang and knew his exam schedule by heart. As she spoke, she took out the Principles of Chemical Engineering textbook and revision questions from her bag and placed them on the table. She had prepared everything in advance. Gao Ye rolled her eyes. Ever since this girl came back from the US, she had become more and more unrestrained. Great. Qin Guang grabbed the revision. Give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, the 5 of them looked at him as if he was a god. Yes, in these 10 minutes he had finished the entire set of final exam questions at an incredible speed. And all of them were correct. Not a single question correct. Amazing. Amazing, my light. Brother Guang, you're amazing. You're invincible. This was from Bai Nyangzi, who had already kneeled down. How the hell did you do it? I don't believe it. I must be having a nightmare. This was from Lin Jingwei, who had begun to doubt his life. Beat me up, I'm sick again. This was from Xiong'er, who had a relapse of his old illness. Gao Ye, you must have awakened your ability after being electrocuted by the magnetic storm infantry. Gao Ye's perspective was a bit strange. Sun Xiaoxuan looked at Qin Guang with admiration. I knew you could do it. Qin Guang silently curled his lips. Well, now you completely believe in my ability. He had finally put on a show and shocked everyone, but deep down he was not very happy. That's right, he had asked Nicosia to help him with the questions. Excessive posturing did indeed have repercussions, especially for someone like him who still had a conscience. The more people admired him because of this, the more upset he felt. But if he didn't do it, these annoying people would never stop. He was like a pig looking in the mirror, inside and out. He was not human. He was displeased, exceptionally displeased. He had caused his thoughts to be clouded by his own actions. Qin Guang silently looked up at the sky. Oh God, oh Earth. So hard to be a human. It's even harder to be a good person. I originally wanted to be a good person with a clear conscience, but you forced me to be the king of cheating who deceives the world to gain a reputation. Okay, if there's nothing else, let's go. Qin Guang waved his hand, ready to slip away. The admiring eyes of the crowd made him want to dodge. He had a guilty conscience. Wait, we calculated the credits yesterday and the day before yesterday. It seems that apart from the compulsory courses, everyone in the class has to make up another 20 credits from elective courses to successfully graduate. We've already made up most of the credits from last semester, so 2 more elective courses should be enough this semester. Brother Guang, you've basically been running the internet last year. You didn't even sign up for elective courses and you're still short of 16 or 17 credits. What should we do? Lin Jingwei called out to him again. Qin Guang's mind spun. Indeed, Lin Jingwei had said that this matter could not be sloppy. However, he did not want to waste time on ordinary elective courses. He would still have to take exams when the time came, and it was quite annoying just thinking about it. You know my student website account, right? Help me sign up for a few courses. I've already filled up my schedule. Lin Jingwei asked, which classes should I register for? Our top student, Brother Guang. Qin Guang's face turned slightly red at being called a top student. Although his eyes were full of admiration, he felt that he was being sarcastic. I don't want to deceive the world anymore. I want to be upright. His eyes turned and inspiration burst forth. He actually thought of a brilliant idea. Help me sign up for minor foreign languages. Yes, that's right. No matter what the other elective courses were, they would definitely not understand if they had not taken them. However, there was one thing that he was truly talented in. The school also had them, and he would be invincible no matter where he went. 4,978 languages. The others were stunned. Lin Jingwei was puzzled. Minor foreign languages? As he was puzzled, he suddenly remembered that Qin Guang had disguised himself as Qin Yuet by Hua's Tianjin Energy Group headquarters to help Bai Hua translate Arabic. That seemed to be the case. Lin Jingwei said tentatively, but just one Arabic isn't enough, right? Qin Guang waved his hand nonchalantly. It's fine. If Arabic isn't enough, help me sign up for German, French, Italian, Portuguese, Latin, Japanese, Russian, Korean. As long as it's available in our school, sign them up for me. Okay, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving. I'm busy. As he spoke, Qin Guang turned around and left, leaving Lin Jingwei, Sun Xiaoxuan and the others to look at each other. After a long time, Gao Ye gasped and complained, F***CK. Is he going to sweep the foreign languages faculty? Could it be that he's interested in the girls from the foreign languages faculty? Sun Xiaoxuan pushed her. What nonsense are you talking about? He's not that kind of person. Chapter 828. Even Qin Guang himself didn't know what kind of person he was. Human nature was too complicated. If everyone could see themselves clearly, there wouldn't be so many people in this world who wanted to take medicine for regret, and everyone would be perfect. However, what Sun Xiaoxuan said was right. Qin Guang really didn't think about girls from a foreign language school at all. The reason was that he was already a clay bodhisattva crossing the river. Unknowingly, he had already owed a huge debt of love, so much that he couldn't pay it all off. Just thinking about it gave him a splitting headache. How could he have the courage to provoke more people? Being too charming didn't necessarily mean happiness. Behind happiness was happiness's troubles. In life, if one couldn't completely cut off all emotions and desires, if one wanted to live a human life, there would always be places where one couldn't control oneself. Even if Qin Guang's so-called being unable to control oneself was so enviable in the eyes of others, they would still feel that he was worse than a beast and didn't know how lucky he was. However, there was a good saying, only one knows whether it's hot or cold when drinking water. Bystanders would only feel envious when they saw these things, but he who was really in the middle of it felt endless happiness and troubles. He also blamed himself from time to time. I clearly want to be a good person, but why do I always go crazy from time to time? When I'm normal, I'm so wise and farsighted. But why am I always controlled by the demons in my heart? Maybe it was a coincidence of fate, or maybe it was the demons pulling him, or maybe it was because he really didn't have enough self-control. He originally didn't want to be like that, but now he really had the tendency to develop in the same direction as Brother Qing. He knew that this wasn't good, but he didn't seem to have a good way to face it. Liu Li and Lu Ming always said that as the great master of the Holy Grail, he shouldn't be so hesitant and indecisive over such a small matter. He knew that the two goddesses' words were very reasonable, but he also knew that it was easier said than done. As for the demons that would often quietly appear in his heart and control his actions and brain, Qin Guang actually understood that these were all excuses for him to shirk responsibility. This so-called demon was actually the human scent on him. To put it bluntly, he was still a mortal. They were so outstanding and they indulged him so much. They knew that he was hiding an unsettled heart, but they were willing to get close to him without asking for anything in return. Although Lu Li and Lu Ming said that I would become a true god sooner or later, I have always been a human and I am also a human now. I'm just a mortal, I really can't resist it. This was really difficult. Sun Xiaoxuan, for example, had become bolder and more courageous after returning from the United States. Her words were also more obvious. How could Qin Guang not be tempted? He wasn't blind, nor was he stupid. He was well aware of how good Sun Xiaoxuan was. However, he couldn't bear to seriously injure Sun Xiaoxuan. Moreover, with Sun Xiaoxuan's temperament, she wouldn't change her mind so easily even if she accepted her stubborn principles. Even if he pretended to be heartless and determined like those in the TV dramas, she might not really back down. It wasn't that easy to fool her. They hadn't just met each other today. They had been together for 3 years, so Sun Xiaoxuan knew him very well. However, he knew that he had to pay a price for being tempted. Especially last night because he was practicing the painting scroll, he was both willing and unwilling, and took the initiative and didn't take the initiative to torment Lu Fei for an entire night. Today, when he encountered Sun Xiaoxuan's sacrifice again, if he didn't have any psychological barriers, he wouldn't be called Qin Guang. He would have to change his name to Qin Shimi. Therefore, even though he knew that he might not be able to hide from these things forever, he still had to hide for as long as he could, right? Although an ugly daughter-in-law would have to meet her in-laws sooner or later, she could at least buy some time to learn makeup, right? Of course, as a somewhat heartless person, the biggest advantage was that when faced with an almost unsolvable problem, he simply didn't think about it anymore. Luli often said to him that whether it was to seek his own fortune or that there would always be a way out when the time came, it was actually quite in line with his creed. For example, now that he had snuck home from school, the first thing he did was to focus on practicing the painting scroll. Oh right, just yesterday afternoon the owners of the house that Lu Xiaoyang and Qin Guang were living in, as well as the house that Zhou Xian had rented, had come to an agreement. These 2 houses were officially under Boss Guang's name, and he just had to make a trip to the real estate bureau to settle the paperwork in 2 days. Not only did they not bargain, but they also offered almost 100,000 more. But it didn't matter. Boss Guang said that any problem that could be solved with money was basically not a problem. Now his problem was that his mind was uneasy. He sat cross-legged on his bed, intending to calm his mind and focus, and rely on the mnemonic chant to cultivate the painting scroll in his mind. However, he couldn't calm his mind. He always pretended that there was something urgent and it made him extremely uncomfortable. It was none other than the makeup exam. Speaking of which, it was strange that such a trifling matter like a makeup exam was really not worth mentioning to the current him. Even if they all died, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Moreover, he had Nikasi's secret help. Not only would he not die, he could even pass the exam easily. But when he thought of the admiration in the eyes of others, and the fact that he had cheated at the highest level in history, even if he had used all kinds of reasons to convince himself, he still felt a knot in his heart. Humans were such strange creatures. There would always be a little bit of morbid persistence, a little bit of awkwardness. When one's heart was at a dead end, this little bit of awkwardness would become a lingering obsession, repeatedly lingering in the depths of one's heart. It was impossible to get rid of, and it would get deeper and deeper, almost becoming a nightmare. Qin Guang knew that the situation wasn't good and he had to find a way to control it, but he just couldn't do it. He got up from his bed and dug out the chemical engineering principle exercise book that he had forced into Sun Xiaoxuan's hands before he ran away. He then opened his QQ email to see that there was also a revision PowerPoint that Sun Xiaoxuan had dug out from his teacher last semester. The exam was tomorrow afternoon. According to his previous performance, if he worked hard from now until late at night, woke up at 6 in the morning and worked until noon, he could really rely on his own ability to barely pass. Well, this really became a low grade and only studying was high. Is there something wrong with me? I can't practice my internal force, but I'm full of energy reading these books that I know are mostly useless after graduating from college. Qin Guang complained about himself. In fact, he understood everything. Only in this way could his mind be clear. Only when his mind was clear could he do things. But time was tight and he didn't have enough time. He really wanted to make a doppelganger for himself. One could read and revise and the other could practice internal force. How nice would that be? Earth paste exploder. Earth elemental doppelganger. A clump of mud fell from his fingernails, about the size of a quarter of a grain of rice. Damn, I definitely won't admit that this is mud accumulated under my fingernails because I didn't wash my hands for a long time. Forget it, that's it. I'll study the principles of chemical engineering by myself first, and then I'll take the Introduction to Environmental Impact Assessment exam the day after tomorrow. I'll get a beggar's version of the world in a cup custom training, so I don't need to study. Then I'll take the course in the morning the day after tomorrow. After I finish the Principles of Chemical Engineering exam tomorrow, I'll start to study. I'll study for 2 days and then I'll use the world in a cup for the last one. In this way, the production of faith, value and self-reliance just happened to be connected. Although life was a bit too full, there was no grudge in his heart and he had a clear conscience. These days were a bit hard, but he had to live up to his own conscience. After all, he was the master of the 3,000 worlds, so he had to be the master of the world with knowledge. He couldn't be a hothead. It was a pity that the most recent world in a line of Sky Cup was the leg muscle group special training that he had enjoyed before, and the time interval was less than a month. The next world in a line of Sky Cup would have to wait about half a month. Otherwise, relying on the world in a line of Sky Cup alone, he should at least be able to integrate all the undergraduate courses together and become a real undergraduate student. Then he wouldn't have so many strange problems. After arranging all the time plans in his mind, Qin Guang opened the book and began to study from the first chapter according to the PowerPoint that Sun Xiaoxuan sent. It was time to show the ability of the king of last-minute sharpening his spear. Who would have thought that the most popular and influential person in the country, the director of the Guangdong General Administration, would stay at home and study his university courses? There were many things that he didn't expect. On the other side, Lin Jingwei's 3 grandsons were sitting in the dormitory, and in front of the 3 of them was Qin Guang's Student Information Network account. By Nyangzi, are we really going to report all of them to him? There are relatively few compulsory courses this semester and most of them are free time. If we report all of them to him, he can just register for 8 foreign languages. But why do I always feel like this is like science fiction? I didn't know that our school's foreign languages department had such a crazy curriculum. What are they all about? Hindi, Slavic, Malay, Bengali. Oh my god. Lin Jingwei's brows were tightly knitted. This is a little troublesome. The languages that Brother Guang mentioned just now are considered common foreign languages. But look, German and Portuguese, and Italian and Korean all clash with his compulsory classes. What should we do? Bai Fan had a sinister smile on his face. Didn't he say that as long as it's in our school we will report it to him? That means Malay is not a problem. If there's a time conflict for a common small language, let's just register for him a language that doesn't conflict. It's fine if it's a bit obscure. Anyway, he said it himself. Is he blaming us? You have to pay attention to his words just now and report everything to him. Right? Lin Jingwei nodded. It seems like that's the only way. Bai Fan humphed. I'm just asking you, what's the impact? Brother Guang's pretentiousness is blinding me. The 3 of them had an inexplicable excitement on their faces as they began to select these minor language courses from Qin Guang's Student Information Network. Hindi, Malay, Bengali, those were all child's play. Celtic, Greek, Tocharian and Manchu Tungusic followed. Finally, after selecting 8 foreign languages, Lin Jingwei clicked submit. He then clapped his hands and rubbed away the non-existent dust. Chapter 829. Pinched his nose. Wait a minute. Seems like we're being a bit cheap. We picked all the rare languages for him. Actually, Japanese, Russian and Spanish could have been chosen? Lin Jingwei said, I don't know why, but I feel like the sun is especially bright this afternoon. Bai Fan was already lying on the bed and stretching. Yo, what a coincidence. What are you 2 doing in front of the computer? That nap I just had was really good. Lin Jingwei said, cheap. Xiong'er said, B****. At this time in school, rumors about Qin Guang were spreading like wildfire. Fortunately, these were just rumors and not gossip. Did you hear? Qin Guang really came back to school to study. That can't be. I heard on the internet that Almighty Superman is our schoolmate. I didn't believe it. Besides, he's so famous and rich now. I heard that his movie will start filming soon. There's no need for him to come back to school to study, right? Isn't studying to earn money? He's a big man now and he's the CEO of a company. He should just happily earn money. Whether or not he has a graduation certificate doesn't affect him at all, right? What do you know? That's why he's famous and successful in his career. A truly powerful person has to do his best in everything he does. Almighty bro is the most handsome. He's responsible for everything he does. Look at your infatuated look. Wake up your boy. Oh, that's true. Actually, I haven't thought it through. With his current fame, he probably doesn't need to attend classes to get his graduation certificate. I don't know what he's thinking. This was a conversation between two freshmen. At noon, I saw Brother All-Rounder at the walking street Maisie May. He's really our senior. Why don't you ask him for an autograph? I'm scared, I'm shy. You don't say. He's even more handsome in person than on TV. Oh right, he's grown hair again. Not just his head. He's so handsome. His hairstyle is the same as Rukawa Keeds. He doesn't know how to play basketball. That's because he doesn't have the mood to play. Think about it. Is there anything in this world that he doesn't know how to do? You're right. It's just like the rumors say. There's a beautiful girl among the people who ate with him. She looked at him with eyes full of love. I don't think I have a chance. Sigh. This was the content of the conversation between the two freshman girls. It was the same for the others. However, it was a little strange. Although many people recognized Qin Guang from morning to noon, no one took the initiative to ask for his autograph. Perhaps it was because he had appeared in school for the first time in the new semester, and that he had grown a full head of hair from his bald head. Many people were a little uncertain, thinking that they might have mistaken him for someone else. In a trance, the reservation and confusion in their hearts caused these people to miss the opportunity. Of course, there was another problem. When it came to celebrities, if they were far away, people would worship them. However, if this celebrity was in the same school as them, went to school the same way, ate the same 3 meals a day, had a nose and eyes, and didn't have 3 heads and 6 arms, he would lose that mysterious feeling. Instead, people would feel that even if they missed him today, he would be there tomorrow anyway. He would be there for the entire semester and wasn't in a hurry to meet him. As for Jin Shiyue and Jiang Ye's fans, they were now full of hatred for Qin Guang. However, they had no choice. He was no longer a nobody that could be bullied by others. It was fun to run to him and act cool, but they were afraid that he would bear a grudge against them. He could consign them to eternal damnation with just a flick of his finger. Qin Guang was no longer the ignorant person he was in the past. It was said that Zhou Wei, who had come to pick a fight with him, was now in prison. He didn't know if prison food was good or not. Even if he was a fan, he would have to weigh his own worth. Not everyone was as stubborn as Qin Guang. For many people, power was enough to make them bow their heads. For even more people, power was enough to make them retreat. Therefore, due to various reasons mentioned above, although everyone in school knew that Qin Guang was back and everyone was talking about him, at least he wasn't disturbed today. However, there might be a wave of autographs in a few days. This peaceful discussion was accompanied by a post on the Azure Starry Sky Forum, which was also Gokyo University's internal forum. It instantly exploded on the spot. A sudden clap of thunder broke the peace of the campus. Is it sensationalism or some ulterior motive? It was the most insane elective registration form in history. Regarding Qin Guang's elective course, 8 minor languages. Yuanfang, what do you think? Mom said that the title should be long enough to attract attention. In this post, an insider took a screenshot of the registration form from the School of Foreign Languages. In this screenshot, it clearly showed the name list of students from other schools who had signed up for elective courses in the School of Foreign Languages this semester. From student number to name, from year of enrollment to original school, everything was there. It was obviously the internal information of the School of Foreign Languages. In this not long list, there was a person's name that stood out. It was not only because his name was Qin Guang, but also because his name and student number appeared in the list of 8 minor foreign languages. Although the first half of his student number and his original class were mosaic, the last 3 digits of his student number were exactly the same. It clearly told all the onlookers that these 8 Qin Guangs were none other than the almighty Superman, the #1 online celebrity in Wuxia, produced and marketed by Gokyo University. The person who made this post was most likely a boy from the School of Foreign Languages. There was an old saying, "Don't let fertile water flow to outsiders." But now, Qin Guang wanted to throw a high-powered water pump into the pond of the School of Foreign Languages. This was intolerable. This guy was young and rich. He had money and power. The key was that he was really capable. His looks, well, it did not matter if he was handsome or not. Anyway, even Jin Shiyue was chasing after him. There must be a reason. This showed that this guy was really scary. So, this matter had to be exposed and let people talk about it. He had to make people think that he had bad intentions. He had to unite all the boys in the School of Foreign Languages to boycott this guy. What a joke. 8 minor foreign languages, and all of them were very rare. Even if it was just basic knowledge training, it was not something that could be easily fooled. No one would believe that he had no ulterior motives when he signed up for the courses like this. In this world, there were people who knew dozens of foreign languages. Although it was rare, language experts who specialized in foreign languages, or some geniuses who were talented in languages, could do it. But it could not be you. Otherwise, the heavens would be too unfair. Besides, you were always messing around. Where did you get the energy to learn 8 foreign languages? I did not study much. Don't lie to me. What's more, I studied a lot. Now I was admitted to a university. This person's literary talent was not good. In the post he wrote, although he tried his best to exaggerate and write it as a crusade against Qin, he did not write it in that way. However, this was not important. Everyone had their own judgment. He only needed to lay this matter out in front of everyone. The whole school was suddenly in an uproar. A celebrity stirred up trouble, and it was big trouble. Looking at the whole school history, even looking at the whole country, no one had ever signed up for 8 minor foreign languages as elective courses at one time. Either he signed up for fun or he really signed up for the girls in the School of Foreign Languages. This was really shameful. Or he really planned to use these minor foreign languages to earn credits. He planned to make sure that he did not fail the courses to earn credits. This was even more unforgivable. As for whether or not he really planned to learn these 8 minor languages, well, no one dared to even think about it. Not to mention that everyone knew that he had to shoot women this semester. It was hard to say what other things he had to do. Even if he really put aside the things outside the school and stayed in the school wholeheartedly to read the books of sages, it was impossible for him to learn 8 foreign languages in a semester. If Qin Guang was just an ordinary student, this matter would probably be seen as a joke and everyone would laugh it off. Maybe after he failed all the courses at the end of the semester, he would become a laughing stock again. However, he's different. He's Qin Guang, the hottest internet celebrity in China. He's also a top-tier content provider that has refreshed the viewership ratings multiple times. Not long ago, he even appeared on the news. He's the aviation hero that turned the tide, and he's also a top-tier player. During this period, all kinds of advertisements he had shot were all over the internet. Even when you took a taxi and opened the online app, you could see this guy's smiling face. My name is Qin Guang. I'm Almighty Superman. I'm waiting for you on the internet. So, up until now, although he was not like other celebrities who were either singing, acting, or appearing on variety shows in terms of fame, he was at least at the top of the country's B-list, an entertainment star who was close to the A-list. Therefore, it did not matter how badly the post was written. As soon as it was posted, it quickly flooded the azure starry sky. The number of clicks and replies to the post kept increasing. Even many people who did not usually go to the school forum went to take a look out of curiosity. Those who had some thoughts left a comment and expressed their views. Sofa. I despise the person who only typed the word, sofa snatch. The person who posted this is hiding his head but showing his tail. Even the account is a newly registered alternate account. The list he posted is also the school's internal list. He is vicious. Shifty eyes. Sinful. Anyway, no matter how you look at it, every time Almighty Bro did something in the past, many people thought he could not do it. But in the end he did it. In the past I did not know he was our schoolmate. I admired him a lot. As for now, I don't think it's a big deal. Qin Guang was quite famous now. There were many people who disliked him, but there were also many fans. On the 4th floor there was someone who spoke up for him. Of course, not all of them were good words. Chapter 830. Learning a foreign language is not the same as playing the piano, driving, shooting Dota, or throwing darts. You have to memorize it and master it. Besides, what were the 8 languages he had chosen? Tocharian, Tungusic, what the hell were they? Many of them are from different language families. You should at least report something close to them. Anyway, I think he's just joking. There must be something fishy about this. I took Malay as an elective this semester. I'm in the same class as him. Okay, I'll stop talking. I'm going to do my makeup. She looked like a cute girl at first glance. The Greek elective was just passing by. I have the same opinion as the one above. Let me put on some makeup to calm myself. By the way, does anyone want to play a small language speed pushing game with a Dota? My team ID is. This was another cute girl, a cute girl who played with Dota. It seemed that she was Qin Guang's hardcore fan. As a teacher of a small language, I'm very happy to see a celebrity student taking my course. I hope more people will take Celtic as our country really needs this kind of small language translation talent. In addition, although I'm not an old pedant, I can clearly tell everyone here that I don't have a back door here. Even if it's Qin Guang, don't even think about getting away with it. I will treat everyone equally. Looking at the ID verification information of this reply, it was really a female teacher from the foreign language school. Unexpectedly, even a teacher was attracted. The teacher's personal reply verified the authenticity of this news. Teacher Lin, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it. Someone immediately replied to this young and beautiful female teacher. Teacher Lin replied, nothing, please go ahead. Teacher Lin, how do you go to the toilet without a back door? Teacher Lin, who was less than 30 years old, suddenly flushed with anger. Student, what's your student number? Come and talk to me about life. That. Just kidding, just kidding. Teacher Lin, don't be angry. Teacher Tang, who was sitting opposite Teacher Lin's desk and teaching Hindi, was sweating profusely. Looking at Teacher Lin's flushed face and gritted teeth, he secretly rejoiced that he had opened a Smurf account. Otherwise he would be dead. The cute female students and beautiful teachers of the School of Foreign Languages all knew about this, and the two girls were so unreserved. You've gone too far. You're clearly rubbing salt in the wounds of us bachelors. Where are you going to put us single men who are waiting to be fed? You guys clearly know that Jin Shuiwei is chasing after him, yet you still act like this. Could it be that this was really a sad era where the winner takes all and the loser has to rely on masturbation? At this moment the boys in the school were even more furious. Apart from Qin Guang's fans, the other students were all hating him. Why the F*** King pretentious light? Shameless and omnipotent. Stealing my woman. You ruined my youth. You ruined my life. Although I admire him very much because of DL199333, I can't stand it anymore this time. An angry male student majoring in Arabic strongly demands that Qin Guang be banned from taking the elective courses of the School of Foreign Languages. That's right, he's simply joking. He's humiliating us students majoring in minor languages. If he must be allowed to enroll in these elective courses, then I demand that the final exam papers be publicly marked. Make the results public. Boycott under-the-table manipulation. You want us to lose convincingly. The holy land of the school cannot be tarnished. Don't bring the things outside into the school. This is also what he has done before. I want a clean campus. Don't be a fly for personal gain. In this way, in less than 2 hours, the click rate of this post had exceeded 20,000, and the number of replies had shot up to 2,000, and it was still rising at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was important to note that the entire Wujing University had about 50 to 60,000 students. The Azure Starry Skies click-through rate was calculated every 6 hours for every IP address. 20,000 click-throughs meant that at least 10,000 people in the university had seen the news, and more than 1,000 people had posted and discussed it. Among these replies, about 20 to 30 were from the girls of the School of Foreign Languages expressing their welcome to Qin Guang. Of course, not every girl was so polite. There were also some girls who clearly expressed their disgust and disgust, thinking that Qin Guang didn't know what to do now that he was famous, and that he was arrogant and looked down on others. What did these girls think Qin Guang thought of them as? Did he think that he could cast his net wide and catch a big fish just because he had money and some ability? Did he think that we would definitely throw ourselves at him just because he came? He should at least strike up a conversation with me before I would consider pursuing you. Don't think that I will take the initiative to attack you. There were also about 100 comments from the boys of the School of Foreign Languages, expressing their protest. About a dozen or so comments were from young teachers who were good at messing around in the forum, expressing their opinions on this matter. None of the teachers really thought that Qin Guang was here to learn anything. Without exception, these teachers all expressed that they would definitely not do anything shady. If Qin Guang really came, he would definitely be treated the same as the other students. At that time, we welcome everyone to supervise, and we will definitely give everyone a satisfactory explanation. As for the other 1,000 or so replies, about half of them were from onlookers, expressing their desire to watch the fun, and a quarter of them expressed their strong resistance, and a quarter of them were Qin Guang's fans who believed that this time, just like in the past, he would make all those who doubted him shut up. In a sense, Gokyo University could already be regarded as the home base of the internet celebrity all-rounder brother. Almost half of the people on the forum were his fans, and no matter how bad it was, they were still biased towards him psychologically. If it were outside the school or somewhere else, the ratio of fans to haters would at most be 1 to 10. Looking at the already noisy Azure Star forum, the initiators Lin Jingwei and the other two were completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect that registering him for an elective course would cause such a big fuss. The guy who revealed the secret was really wicked, worrying about nothing. Although Brother Guang wasn't a decent person, he didn't even have the luck to enjoy the current resources. How could he have any designs on the girls of the School of Foreign Languages? We wouldn't believe it even if you told us. Forget it, since things had already come to this. It didn't seem to be of any use cursing the informant in their hearts. In short, when this guy found out, wouldn't he fly into a rage and hang us on a tree to dry? Tonight's moon is really round. Lin Jingwei leaned against the dormitory window and looked up at the dark sky. The sky in Wujing almost never saw the moon all year round. Bai Nyangzi's hands were furiously typing on the keyboard, writing his toxic text for women. He subconsciously said, I wonder what Brother Guang is doing at this time? Xianxia, on the other hand, was fighting with someone on the school forum. Without thinking, he said, Brother Guang? Who's that? It sounds familiar. Do we know each other? Lin Jingwei and Bai Nyangzi silently gave him a thumbs up. Xianxia's comprehension ability was getting better and better recently. The Brother Guang that the three of them were talking about didn't know what was going on in the school forum. He was now swimming in the sea of knowledge of principles of chemical engineering. In order to avoid being disturbed, he didn't log on to QQ, and he even turned off his phone. After 3 years of last-minute training, he had a wealth of experience in pre-war mobilization. He understood that if he didn't want to fail the exam, he must bring out 200% of his state the day before the exam. Maybe it was because he often learned skills in the world of cups and realized the philosophy of life, or maybe it was because he had lived in the world of cups for too long, or maybe it was because he had mastered the world-class acting skills through the world of acting. He had anesthetized himself into a genius with high IQ in the movies. Today he was particularly efficient in reading, and his memory was slightly better than before. Although he didn't have a photographic memory, at least his learning ability was much better than when he was in the 3rd year of high school before the college entrance examination. He flipped the pages of the book, and the PowerPoint slides in front of the computer were flying page after page. If he could still study as efficiently as he did in the past, it would not be a problem for him to become the provincial top scorer. He originally planned to go to bed when he was tired, but he didn't expect that the sky would turn dark and then bright. In the blink of an eye, the sun shone through the window and scattered on the desk. His blood was still boiling, but his stomach was growling. He looked up and saw the sun slowly rising in the distance. Only then did Qin Guang recover from his shock. He had actually been reading since yesterday afternoon until now. How come I don't feel tired at all? Am I superhuman? He stood up and felt the rolling heat in his lower abdomen. Then he suddenly realized what was going on. So that was how it was. He was completely immersed in reading and doing questions, and the little mouse formed by the inner strength of the painting volume was actually swimming around in his body. Immersing oneself in something without distractions, in a sense, was in line with the importance of martial arts practitioners to get rid of distracting thoughts. It was just like the meditation of martial arts practitioners. The principle was different but the same. However, ordinary martial arts practitioners, including Wenwen, needed to meditate in seclusion during the early stages of practicing inner strength because their meridians were closed and the channels were narrow. They needed to let the qi flow through their meridians bit by bit, widen their meridians and strengthen their qi. However, every inch of Qin Guang's body had been trained by the heavenly holy grail in the world in the cup, and had completely surpassed the limits of human body genetic evolution. Now his root bone could be said to be the best in history. The meridians in his body were naturally wide and did not need to be expanded. Therefore, even if he was not meditating and was just sitting on the stool, that wisp of qi would move on its own because of his meditation. Then it could not be stopped and ran on the broad road. This was the real reason why others said that his root bone was nature-defying. It was not that he was not hungry at all. It was just that the qi of inner strength galloped through his meridians for the first time, bringing him an unprecedented sense of fullness and numbing his hunger and fatigue. Of course, martial arts practitioners with inner strength did indeed have a stronger ability to resist fatigue and hunger. Other than that, although Qin Guang's body did not look overly strong, his strength and stamina far exceeded the level that his body size showed. Just like the day before yesterday in the punishment realm, when he flew from the 5 capitals to Wu Tuo town, and then turned the tide in Wu Tuo town, he almost did not sleep in between. He had endured it all and did not feel any discomfort afterwards. Now that he had become a noble inner force practitioner, not sleeping for one night was a small problem for him. Chapter 831. After understanding this, he calmed down and went downstairs to the breakfast shop. He ordered 12 steamed buns and 3 bowls of porridge, then turned on his phone with a calm face. As soon as he turned on his phone, it exploded. "Brother Guang, I was wrong. I was wrong +1. There was a little accident, but we believe that Brother Guang can handle it. Recently, my dad asked me to go back to the Northeast. My third aunt's nephew is getting married and he asked me to go back and be the best man." The above 3 messages were sent by the third grandson of his dorm, and it was obviously not a good thing. "Qin Guang, don't worry about what's happening on the internet. Study hard for the makeup exam. Everything else can wait until the makeup exam is over." This was sent by Sun Xiaoxuan. Qin Guang's face was full of confusion. What the hell happened? Why did it seem like the end of the world? He wanted to call Lin Jingwei to ask about the situation, but then he thought better of it. He still had to go back and study after eating. Therefore he ignored everyone and simply switched to airplane mode. He minded his own business as he ate and read offline novels to refresh his mind. After dinner he went back to his room to live his isolated life. In order to prepare for the principles of chemical engineering, he didn't spend much time sharpening the knife, which was only about 20 hours. He had to race against time and strive to get the best result even if he didn't finish sharpening the knife. As for the next introduction to environmental impact assessment, it was easy. Before the exam he would hold the textbook in his hand, drink some water, and then enter the cup world for a special training session. That was it. As for Nicosia, "Humph, you don't want to help me, but I don't want you to help me. The old man is upright and upright. How can I let my reputation be ruined in your hands? Even if no one else knows about this, I can't let it be me." The taste of deceiving the world, even if it was only once in a while, would feel uncomfortable all over. It was not something that could be solved by a barbecue. Qin Guang, who was immersed in the sea of books, didn't know that the outside world was probably in chaos because of him. Around noon, the number of clicks on the main thread posted on the Azure Starry Sky forum had officially exceeded 100,000, and the number of replies had even reached 10,000. Ever since the establishment of Azure Starry Sky, this campus BBS, there had never been a thread with more than 10,000 replies. The last thread that was close to this number was related to him. It was the main thread that reported the incident between Wang Rin and Su Lijing during the summer vacation. Although the entire school was on summer vacation, they still discussed it for a few days. In the end, the number of replies stopped at around 5,000, which was nothing compared to this one, which broke through 10,000 in a day. As time went on, more and more students joined the ranks of criticizing him, and gradually his original fans couldn't take it anymore. After all, although the previous Qin Guang had many achievements in many aspects, other than the Dota, there really weren't many other aspects that required him to test his IQ and brain. He might be able to touch the piano a little, but when it came to music, it was actually more about the sense of music and music theory. So far he had never shown any ability in composing music. If it was just a rote performance, it was more about practice makes perfect. Perhaps his acting skills were not bad, but so far he had only made a brief appearance in Tears Will End for Rivers and Mountains. Other than that, he had only appeared in some commercials which were not very convincing. The advertising circle in Yanjing knew of his great achievement of filming 12 companies' commercials in one afternoon, and it was a much talked about story. However, ordinary people didn't know about these secrets. Therefore, gradually, even Qin Guang's die-hard fans were convinced by others. Seemed like a fantasy to learn 8 small foreign languages in one semester. Among the 10,000 replies, more than 60% of the people who felt that he was playing to the gallery or had ulterior motives gradually felt like he was challenging 8 small foreign languages at once. Among the tens of thousands of replies, more than 60% of the people who felt that he was playing to the gallery or had ulterior motives. As for those die-hard fans of Qin Guang, they had no choice but to leave a comment. Let's just wait and see when the final exam is over. If Qin Guang can really pass 8 foreign languages, I will live broadcast eating sh*t. 1. 5 kilograms. The person who posted the thread as the original poster gave the keynote of the thread on the 10,888th comment with a hammer blow. Yes, but I think we should boycott him even more. He is simply wasting the teaching resources of our school. Thousands of people wrote a letter of blood to cancel Qin Guang's qualification to apply for elective courses in the School of Foreign Languages. Everyone was a little excited. However, they all knew that in the school's rules and regulations, there seemed to be no clear rule on this kind of thing. In a sense, although it was not reasonable for him to apply for elective courses, it seemed to be reasonable. Up until now, no school leaders had come out to make a statement, which meant that the school had already thought of a way to deal with this matter, so it was impossible for Qin Guang to be disqualified from taking elective courses. The so-called letter of blood from tens of thousands of people was impossible. At most, only about 1,000 boys in the School of Foreign Languages would jump up and down, but it was useless. But these keyboard warriors, although they were boycotting Qin Guang on the internet now, if Qin Guang sat in the classroom with his backpack, no one would dare to clamor in front of him. Just like Xiaozong, who was scolded and cursed on the internet every day, didn't he live a good life? In the afternoon, walking in the school with his backpack, Qin Guang found that people were pointing at him everywhere, which made him feel quite uncomfortable. Here it comes. This trash is really shameless. Yes, he is thinking about what is in the pot while eating from the bowl. Applying for so many courses, most likely he wants to catch all the girls in the School of Foreign Languages in one fell swoop. He's crazy. Public morals are degenerating day by day. Public morals are not what they used to be. Qin Guang was infuriated by the two jerks who were whispering, pointing and sneaking glances at him. He shouted, "You two, what are you talking about? Oh my God. Did he hear that? Why are his ears so sharp? Run, run." The two of them did not dare to look back and ran away with their necks tucked in. Qin Guang looked at the time. There were only 10 minutes left before the exam started at 2 o'clock. He glared at them indignantly but did not chase after them. When he reached the first classroom building, he ran into Sun Xiaoxuan and Gaoya. As soon as the three of them saw each other, he asked, "Class President Sun, I saw all of you texting me this morning. When I entered the school, these people looked at me strangely. Other than a few people who asked for my autograph, the others were either talking about me behind my back, or looking like they wanted to eat me but felt that they could not beat me. What's going on?" "Hey, you still don't know." Gaoya opened her mouth to speak, but Sun Xiaoxuan pressed her down and said to Qin Guang, "It's okay, it's not a big deal. You go up and take your exam first. I'll tell you when you're done." She did not want to affect Qin Guang's upcoming exam, so she planned to keep it a secret for a while. Qin Guang did not want to rely on Nicosia today. He wanted to make a living on his own, and he did not want to have any distracting thoughts at this time. He turned around and went upstairs. As for the strange looks he received when he went upstairs, he did not care. This was probably the problem of being famous. Anyway, it would not hurt him to let people look at him. Qin Guang did not know that at this time, what happened in the school had been exposed on the internet. He was now very famous and news about him was a hot topic. Moreover, almost all the news about him had been positive and there was almost no negative news. First of all, he did not have many black marks. Even if there were some black marks that Zhou Wei had exposed, they were all easily resolved by his own self-destruction. Second of all, like other celebrities, when they really could not find any black marks, some news media or marketing accounts would from time to time come up with fake black marks to attract attention. Anyway, it was just beating around the bush and making insinuations. These celebrities who had been defamed could not even find a target to sue even if they wanted to. But Qin Guang was different. It was not that no one wanted to mess with him, but that the people who messed with him were now in big trouble. He was the main character in all kinds of positive publicity on news broadcast and 30 Minutes news. God knows how powerful his background was. Fabricating fake news about him could lead to a mysterious organization knocking on his door at any time. But this time was different. The evidence was conclusive and it was the truth. There was no doubt about it. We were just following the principles of a journalist and truthfully reporting the public deeds of some celebrities. We were not trying to discredit anyone. We were just taking this matter out and adding our own comments. As for whether it was black marks or positive publicity, The netizens had their own set of standards to judge. All-round scholar? All-round Superman Qin Guang uses 8 foreign languages in a row. Conceited genius. On the university career of an all-round Superman, exceptional celebrity studies, phenomenal genius in modern education? How difficult is it to learn 8 small languages? These articles appeared one after another on the major online media in the country at lightning speed. Although these people said that they were just reporting the truth, it was impossible not to add their own personal goods in it. If they did not write more explosive headlines and content, how could they attract enough attention in this era of explosive inquiries? How could they gain a foothold? Especially compared to other celebrities who continued their studies in school, Qin Guang was really too high profile. For example, some athletes, even if they were students, actually did not attend many classes in a semester. Occasionally, they would appear on campus with a bunch of cameras following behind them. It was not wrong to say that they were there to study, but in fact they were there to do publicity. As for the exams, they were even more secretive. Otherwise, they would blatantly set all kinds of private questions, leak all kinds of questions and loose marking. The final exam results were even more secretive. Finally, when it was time to graduate, they would smoothly take out their graduation certificate and put on their bachelor's uniform or master's uniform. Both the school and the celebrity would be famous and everyone would be happy. For example, Qin Guang, who suddenly entered the school normally and caused such a sensation when he signed up for an elective course, was probably the only one in the past 10 to 20 years. Therefore, during the afternoon when he was working on the Principles of Chemical Engineering test paper, the limelight on the internet suddenly exploded. Almost every news related to him had thousands of comments. Recently, Tianguang Agency, who had been working with the movie Women and the advertising endorsements of the 12 companies, was shocked and unprepared. When Lu Xiaoyang was the first to receive the report, the situation on the internet had already gone out of control. He briefly browsed through the major media and his face was completely black. Damn it, they were basically all haters and haters. My boss Chen, you really know how to cause trouble. Chapter 832. On the other side in the makeup exam room, the others and the invigilator were also very restless, casting their gazes towards old Master Guang's head. Qin Guang indicated that his emotions were stable. What are you looking at? Haven't you seen a handsome pan before? Look again. I'll eat you up if you keep looking. Guys have anus, girls have anus too. But forget it, the makeup exam room was basically filled with guys. Their taste was a little too heavy. When the invigilator was handing out the papers, Dearsong's voice rang out in his mind again, using a demonic tone to tempt him. Sir, don't you want one? The best substitute examiner in history? It's free, it's guaranteed, and you definitely won't screw up. Qin Guang rejected Dearsong's temptation righteously. Thank you, I appreciate your good intentions. The old man has dominated the exam for 15 years. What kind of situation has he not seen? What happened yesterday was just an accident. I came prepared today. I'm especially upright today. Really? Really? Then it's a deal. If you realize later that you can't handle it halfway, I won't help you look for Nikoxy anymore. Qin Guang nodded. Of course, since I said it, I have to do it. With that, Qin Guang ignored Dearsong, focusing all his attention on the papers in front of him. Seeing that he was being stubborn, Dearsong didn't try to persuade him anymore, instead thinking to himself, although this guy had already become immortal, and because he was born in a family that was considered ordinary among mortals, causing his current personality to be especially commoner, that inexplicable determination in his heart didn't seem to be any different from before. No wonder Sister Liuli was so determined to accompany him in his madness. Qin Guang, oh Qin Guang, when exactly will you be able to truly control this heavenly holy grail and release Sister Liuli and me? Although I know that day may be very far away, I'm really anxious and looking forward to it. 2 hours later, Qin Guang didn't hand in his papers early this time, instead handing them in together with the others. He only wrote down the final answer at the very last moment before the exam ended. He stood up and subconsciously wanted to wipe his sweat, but he found that his forehead was still dry and his stomach was still burning. He had forgotten that because he was too focused he didn't have time to let the chi sense of the painting scroll circulate on its own. In this state he wouldn't sweat because he was using his brain too much. Speaking of which, he should give Wenwen a call and ask her if she was like him when she cultivated the painting scroll. In addition, according to the records in the painting volume, It seemed that one had to practice until the meridians of the whole body were completely connected. Then with a little force the whole body's tendons and meridians would move together with the internal strength. This would allow martial artists to have a strength that exceeded the endurance of their muscles and bones. When they were attacked and injured by others, they would be able to circulate their internal strength through the meridians to the place where they were hit, which would provide a certain degree of protection. This kind of martial artist was considered a master of muscle strength, just like the two people Qin Guang had met in Yanjing's Xishan town. This kind of internal strength martial artist was much stronger than ordinary people, but the upper limit of their own strength was relatively low. After all, the upper limit of the endurance of their muscles, bones and skin was not high, and their internal strength was not strong either. In his current situation his physical body was perfect from the beginning, and his meridians were naturally well connected. In ancient times, it would be called opening the conception and governing vessels at birth. In that case, what kind of level would his current situation be at? He was quite at a loss about this, but in any case, the inner strength in his body was growing stronger day by day. He knew that he was becoming stronger at an extremely fast speed, and that was enough. When he handed in his paper and went downstairs, the other people he met had the same reaction as before. However, he would soon be able to understand the situation from Sun Xiaoxuan. He didn't want to waste his breath on these guys who liked to gossip, so he went downstairs with his head down. It turned out that Sun Xiaoxuan and Gao Ye weren't the only ones waiting for him downstairs. Lin Jingwei and the other two were there as well. Looking at their evasive eyes, Qin Guang knew that the inexplicable situation he was in today must have something to do with their apology to him. Walking with them to a corner downstairs, Qin Guang put his hands behind his back, pursed his lips and looked at Lin Jingwei with a fake smile. "Tell me, little Lin, what's going on?" Lin Jingwei smiled apologetically, not in a hurry to answer him. Instead he put his phone in front of him. On the screen was the invincible post on Azure Starry Sky, which had more than 13,000 replies. When Qin Guang received it and took a look, he was speechless. "What kind of language did you enroll me in? Didn't I give you German and Italian?" Lin Jingwei argued. "Don't you have some compulsory classes? There's a conflict." Bai Fan, who was next to him, immediately sold him out. Actually, not all of the slightly more common languages conflict with each other. Japanese, Russian and Spanish can all be chosen. Lin Jingwei glared at Bai Fan angrily. F***ck. Didn't we agree to be united? Xiong'er, who was next to him, also came over and stood next to Bai Fan. Together with Bai Fan he smiled sinisterly. "The two of us are united. Brother Guang, listen to me. Little Lin was the one who clicked the mouse. We couldn't even stop him at that time." Lin Jingwei's mouth was wide open. He was so angry at these two scumbags that he almost fainted on the spot. He was indeed the one who was clicking the mouse at that time, but how could these two stop him? At that time, they were clearly immersed in the pleasure of tricking Brother Guang and couldn't extricate themselves. Qin Guang rubbed his fingers and turned to stare at Lin Jingwei. Lin Jingwei took a few steps back. "Brother Guang, listen to me. Eat my 1,000 years of killing." If it weren't for Gao Ye and Qin Guang had to save him some face, he would have been dried up on a tree. Qin Guang scanned the post briefly. After reading it he was fuming with anger. Faster thief. If the old man hadn't passed the special training in One-Line Sky Language Masters Cup and mastered all the languages in the world, even if little Lin had enrolled him in a non-mainstream course, he would still be able to handle it. Otherwise he would have become one of the haters in this post. He would either rely on underhanded means to get credits, or he would go after the girls in the Foreign Language Institute. These insults were really unpleasant to hear. "Aren't you afraid of being slapped in the face? What kind of person do you think I am?" This Manchurian, Tungusic, Celtic and Tocharian language was a piece of cake, alright? Luckily, the school doesn't have a minority language like Biramulu. Otherwise, I would have made you frogs at the bottom of the well kneel on the ground and sing "Conquered." Forget it. I thought it was a big deal. It's just a small problem. Let them do whatever they want. They won't cause much trouble. They'll settle down after a while and they'll be fine by the time the final exams come. Qin Guang forced himself to calm down. He flipped through the post as he spoke. Sun Xiaoxuan asked tentatively, "But, how are you going to pass the exams?" Qin Guang shrugged. "I'll just take the exams. It doesn't matter. I told you, as long as it's a foreign language institute course, I'll apply for it. Although the courses I'm applying for now are a bit harsh, there's no difference in essence. He was being polite. He didn't even say that he could apply for any foreign language on earth. Lin Jingwei, Sun Xiaoxuan and the others had their mouths wide open. They were so shocked by his inexplicable self-confidence that they began to doubt their lives. Thinking back to yesterday's lunchtime performance, could it be that this time he also had real skills and wasn't bracing himself to brag? As the saying goes, a scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a different light. Brother Guang, it's not enough for us to look at you in a different light after this summer vacation. We'll have to blind our eyes to look at you. After reading most of the posts, Qin Guang didn't want to continue to be annoyed. The most annoying thing about keyboard warriors was that they would criticize you on the internet. You hated them to the core, but they just had to hide on the other side of the internet cable. You couldn't find them and there was no way to crawl over the internet cable to attack them. If you really wanted to fight, they would just hide underground. So, since there was no way to let those haters see the power of his fists, it was better to just ignore them. He threw his phone at Lin Jingwei. Forget it. Let's go for lunch. I still have to read later. Lin Jingwei raised his hand to catch it, but his fingers slipped. He could only touch the phone with his fingertips. Then the phone bounced off his hand and fell into Yuanming Lake. Lin Jingwei exclaimed, "What the F***?" Qin Guang shrugged. "Are you blaming me? Do you need me to go down and pick it up for you? The fee is 5,000 yuan, no bargaining." Lin Jingwei hesitated for 10 seconds, then shook his head helplessly. "Forget it. I'll go buy the rice mix." "Why don't you use it?" "My family doesn't allow me to use it. You know." "Alright then." Qin Guang curled his lips. If the impact of this matter was limited to the school, perhaps Qin Guang would really treat it as nothing and laugh it off. Before they reached the dormitory, Dong Xuebing received a call from Tianguang Agency. It was his publicity and public relations manager, Lu Xiaoyang. Qin Guang picked up the call. "Report to the higher-ups if there's anything. Dismiss if there's nothing else." Lu Xiaoyang screamed. "Boss, this is not the time to be joking. It blew up. It blew up. D****. Don't be so flustered. What blew up?" Lu Xiaoyang continued to scream. "It all blew up." Qin Guang's face turned black. "Explain it to me in 3 sentences or I will blow you up." Lu Xiaoyang finally calmed down. He swallowed his saliva and tried to organize his words before saying, "The news of you taking 8 minor languages as elective courses has been posted online. This is the first sentence. At least 80% of the mainstream online media have written articles about it. This is the second sentence. Most of them are about you. The rest of the replies are also about you." Hearing those words, Qin Guang's vision darkened. He had unknowingly created a huge issue for someone. Chapter 833. Is there anyone behind this? Have you found any evidence? Lu Xiaoyang swallowed his saliva. My years as a top paparazzi were not in vain. My summarizing ability is not just for show. Coming up with a conclusion in 3 sentences, my boss is becoming more and more like a boss. I have been investigating for the whole afternoon and I have not found any evidence. The company is already having a meeting to discuss this. We have also contacted many friends from the media and the public relations world. Everyone agreed that it might be because of your recent fame and positive reports. Whether it is the netizens or the media, there is a hidden strong demand for negative reports about you. In professional terms, it is called the troll effect. What kind of professional term is that? It means that too many people are saying good things about you and everyone wants to see you embarrass yourself. What a retard. Yes, it is. But the public opinion on the internet has already taken shape. We can ask some friends in the media to help us delete the articles, but it is like trying to put out a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. I am afraid you have to do it yourself and look for the elders above you. Qin Guang only thought for 3 seconds and rejected Lu Xiaoyang's suggestion. The internal force martial artist issue was not over yet, and the elders still wanted him to attract the attention of the public. Otherwise they would have informed him long ago. If he was praised for his good deeds, it would be public opinion. In the eyes of the elders, it does not matter if it is good or bad as long as there is popularity, it is a good thing. Things had already come to this and they did not take the initiative to do anything. They must not want to interfere. Aside from that, Qin Guang also had a feeling that the old men might be conniving today. Otherwise, they wouldn't have caused such a huge commotion in just half a day, which even Lu Xiaoyang was terrified of. They might have turned a blind eye to it and wanted to test his ability as the chief of the Guangding General Bureau. They want me to handle it myself. That's right. That must be it. 3. Bolsh **. Ha, old Jiang, you deserve this. Ha, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Old Chow, you did not expect this, did you? They're all mine. In a certain courtyard in Yanjin, the old men who had been speculated by Qin Guang were fighting each other. He was really thinking too much. Although the elders had planned to help him establish a positive image before, now that he was in power, the elders were not his personal nannies. It was impossible for them to ask about everything he did. Although this kind of thing was very popular on the internet in the eyes of the elders, it was still a trivial matter that could not be brought to the table. They only paid attention to the big things and occasionally asked about the small things. Qin Guang himself was already a vice-ministerial level official. It didn't matter if he used forceful methods or let time dilute the impact. It was his own decision. You guys go eat, I have to go to the company. Qin Guang didn't have any good ideas, so he decided to go to the company. As he drove, he deliberated in his mind. He was the brand of Tianguang Agency. If his reputation was ruined because of this trivial matter, the box office of women which Tianguang Agency had invested a lot in might be affected. Moreover, if his brand was ruined, the development of the company would be affected, and all the staff in Tianguang Agency would worry about him for no reason. That was his money, which was not to be taken lightly. In fact, he was quite surprised that things had turned out this way. The media should have some understanding of his ability to control public opinion. It was impossible for those people to confront him directly. Maybe what Buttface and LV Xiaoyang said was true, there were many coincidences in it. Some of the media just wanted to catch up with the trend and didn't want to be left behind. They didn't expect the public opinion would be so explosive. Maybe they were also panicking now. At this time, it was not impossible to find the mysterious relevant department, to delete the posts and clean up the public opinion on a large scale on the internet. The advantage of this method was that it was very effective and could eliminate all the negative reports and comments in a very short time. The disadvantage was that the news report was deleted, but the impression in people's hearts couldn't be changed in a short time. In addition to the main report, there were countless communication channels such as forums, Tieba, Weibo, QQ groups and WeChat groups. It was very difficult to clean up these channels one by one, and it was a waste of money and manpower. He also had to owe a debt of gratitude that he didn't know how to repay. God knew how many connections he had to make, but the effect was not guaranteed. After all, this was his own private matter and it didn't involve others. Also, if he used the method of deleting posts, it would only make him look like he was hiding something. At the very least, before the final exams, he would have to prove that others were slandering him. In the future, when he wanted to overturn the case, not everyone would be able to notice the news of him being whitewashed. He could only hope that time would erase the impression in people's hearts little by little, which was very powerless. Therefore, deleting the posts for a while would bring endless troubles. So, except for deleting the posts, what else could he do to reverse the case as soon as possible? Being poor had its troubles, but it also had its benefits. After all, the barefooted was not afraid of wearing shoes. Even if he lost his underwear, it was just the price of a pair of CK underwear. Now he was different from the past. He had money and power, but he had to be cautious and have many concerns. This was all the old man's small money and the amount was too large. Like other companies, the market value would shrink by a certain percentage and the loss would be in the tens of millions. Just thinking about it made his heart hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. The poor would face such an awkward situation after suddenly turning over a new leaf. Their minds were still calculating the accounts like the poor, but they were faced with the financial inconsistency of the rich, easily tens of millions of dollars. It was quite awkward. Maybe after a few years he would be like those who played with the tide in the stock market and get used to the ups and downs, and then he would get used to this kind of thing. But now, even if he knew that it wasn't difficult for him to earn money, even if Tianguang brokerage lost everything, his net worth was still in the hundreds of millions, he still felt unhappy. The old man had been in the business world for more than half a year, and had never suffered a defeat. What he put into his pocket, not a single cent less. Whoever wants to ruin my reputation is equivalent to making me lose money, wanting my life and becoming my enemy. With this thought in mind, he parked his car in the parking lot of Tianguang Brokerage's Lida building. Usually at this time all the employees of Tianguang Brokerage would have gotten off work. But today was a special time, and everyone in the company was working overtime to deal with the storm on the internet. On one hand, they had to connect with the major media outlets, and on the other they had to work hard to contact a public relations company. Otherwise, they had to turn into a water army and try their best to turn the tide on the internet. Before the highest management of the company, which was Qin Guang himself, came up with a definite solution, this was the safest and least likely way to go wrong. At the same time, there had to be someone who had a clear and precise grasp of the public opinion, summarizing the current situation to perfection, so that when Qin Guang arrived he could give a complete report as soon as possible. This would help the old CEO of Tuosho accurately grasp the current situation. This glorious and difficult task fell on the head of Tianguang Brokerage, the #1 paparazzi Zhou Xian. But the others were not idle, including the cleaning department, the security department and the food department, the 2 treasures and 1 sugar department, did not get off work. With Chu Hanji in the lead, the cleaning department employees were also sweeping the floor while browsing the forum on their phones. To put it nicely, they were doing multiple things at the same time. The other person in charge of the company, Tang Ying, even ran over from the hospital to take charge. Although most of her attention was spent on her own matters in the hospital, she was not very familiar with the specific operations and management of Tianguang Brokerage. After discovering that Qin Guang was quite good at making money and was not squandering like she had feared, she did not like to ask too much about the company's matters. But she felt that, as the executive vice president, she could at least boost the employees' confidence by taking charge in the company at this critical moment of life and death. At least that was what she thought. In such a huge company, a few middle-level executives were sitting in the big conference room, each busy with their own work, exchanging opinions from time to time. Yu Hong was making phone calls everywhere, mobilizing his connections in the country. The marketing manager, Fong Tianyu, was furiously scanning the news. Other than observing the public opinion, he also had to come up with a marketing plan in his head, thinking of ways to turn passivity into initiative. The finance manager, Su Li, was also holding a phone, contacting one person after another in charge of the marketing account and the head of the Internet Water Army, bargaining, striving to achieve maximum control over the public opinion with the least amount of effort. The operations manager was not in the conference room, but was outside accompanying Tang Ying as she walked around. The one who had the hardest time was the publicity and public relations manager, Lu Xiaoyang. He had to find contacts everywhere, and from time to time he had to summarize the information sent to the company's office software from various departments. Today's incident was within the scope of his publicity and public relations department, so he had a great responsibility. Qin Guang walked into the office with a solemn expression. In fact, he was quite annoyed at this moment. If it weren't for this incident, he would have been happily studying at home. He had rushed here from school, wasted 2 to 3 hours, and obviously they were trying to keep the old man busy. Hey, everyone sit down. 3. Manager Lu, tell me about the current situation. Qin Guang wanted to say butt face, but this was a very formal and serious occasion, so it was better to save some face for him. Lu Xiaoyang sorted out his thoughts, stood up, coughed lightly, and began to speak to the laptop in front of him. About 10 minutes later, he had roughly analyzed the current situation on the internet. He was really a professional. In less than 10 minutes, his summary had taken care of all aspects. The specific content included, but was not limited to, which information platform had the hottest discussion about this incident, the approximate number of news reports related to this incident, the position of these articles, and the popularity of the comments below. Preliminary estimates, the general proportion of people who were flaming Qin Guang, the attitudes of these people, the number of people who supported Qin Guang, whether these people showed any signs of turning from fans to haters, and how much the change was. The age and gender composition of the fans and haters, the analysis of the potential motives of the haters and news writers, and so on. As for Lu Xiaoyang's reporting work, it could be summed up in one word: high-end. Chapter 834. In summary, this incident started with a post on the boss's school forum yesterday afternoon. Through the active participation of Gokyo University's internal students, it gradually became more popular. Then earlier this morning on today's front page app, a review editor was the first to expose this incident. His position was neutral, and he simply reported this incident to verify its authenticity. 5 minutes later, an article with a slightly combative stance appeared on today's front page. Half an hour later, major web portals including Little News, Penguin News, Daily Express News and so on followed suit. Although these articles do not have an obvious rhythm, there is a very vague derogatory meaning between the lines. The biggest problem isn't the articles written by these media people, but the netizens who followed the posts. Only a small portion of them are the boss's fans and supporters. Most of them are using this incident to attack the boss. For example, this person wrote, "Qin Guang became famous too quickly and now he's inflated." And this, "Baldy Qin Guang, brainless, pretentious, heartless, despicable." Ahem, you don't have to read out all the words that scolded me. Qin Guang coughed. He felt that Lu Xiaoyang was using his position to get back at him. He must have been looking for a reason to scold him, but he just didn't have the chance. Forget it. Seeing that you've done well today, I'll forgive you for your wrongdoings and let you off the hook. At this moment, his heart was filled with happiness. The ancients didn't lie to him. There was strength in numbers. Having the help of a team was much better than having to fight alone. Alright, I'm clear about the situation now. Next, old you. Qin Guang led the topic to Yu Hong. After the middle-level executives finished reporting, Qin Guang had a clearer grasp of the situation. Lord Guang expressed that the situation was a little troublesome. Indeed, as previously analyzed, there really wasn't anyone behind this incident. It was completely a natural situation. This was the most troublesome part. Public opinion and public relations might seem simple, but it was something that required a lot of skill. For example, every time a famous director in the country released a new film, he would find someone to argue with and use his fame and the reputation of the person he argued with to hype up his new film. He had tried this method many times over the years and the results were excellent. But this time when he repeated the same trick, not only did he not get any support from the public on the internet, but he also attracted a lot of criticism and even the box office of his movie was affected. Why did the same move work so well in the past but not now? Mastering the techniques of writing and arguing how to express one's views on Weibo, every sentence, every word and every line contained a great deal of knowledge. When it came to the timing of a catfight, every word and sentence of a catfight on Weibo, the effect expressed by a single sentence was often the result of a difference of 1,000 miles. For the sake of his new film, the famous director had secretly torn apart another well-known popular female star who had no acting skills. This time he had earned a reputation and made the popular female star take the blame. Moreover, it was only an insinuation and no one could refute it. Of course, it could also be because he was a veteran in the industry and had a high status, so they let him have his way. Then, the second step was to tear apart the university, dragging the famous university with him to be the scapegoat, and then continue to hype up the popularity of his movie. Unexpectedly, this time he had made a wrong move and his trick was seen through. The popularity of the movie increased a little, but his bad reputation was even worse. Now that the movie was released, he put on an attitude of being the most powerful and continued to tear apart the cinema chain. Well, it was the home of Qin Guang's old acquaintance, Little Kong. This time it was even worse. He did not expect that silly Little Tsong was also a canon. The moment the famous director made a move, he immediately responded. Although Little Tsong was full of black marks on the internet in the past, and everyone scolded him when they saw him this time because of the famous director's repeated underhanded methods to hype up the movie, everyone was extremely fed up with his catfight routine. The fame of the movie seemed to be a little better, but it was also a lot of curses. The famous director went for wool and came home shorn. Little Tsong, who was amenable to coaxing but not coercion, directly cut the screening rate of his new movie to almost zero. Although there might be more to this matter so far, it seemed that the famous director had suffered a huge loss. This kind of thing could not be said who was right or wrong, it was only judged by the results. In order to promote the movie, the famous director had used all kinds of methods, but he lost his reputation and money, because he did not grasp the scale and skills of public opinion well. At the same time, Qin Guang's current situation had a similar effect. If he wasn't careful and made a wrong move, it would probably bring a long-term damage to his reputation. Qin Guang frowned and began to think about the main attack points of the online haters. In a sense, he was a very lazy person and he really did not want to waste his brain on these things. These kinds of complicated things were not his specialty. But this time, as the leader of the company and the only celebrity IP in the entire company, he had to stand up and make the decision. First of all, he had to grasp the core contradiction. What on earth were these people scolding me about? Qin Guang looked at this line of words in the summary report written by Lu Xiaoyang in front of him. Most people think that an omnipotent Superman cannot complete the studies of 8 minor languages in a dignified manner. With this as the core contradiction, they think that he is either playing to the gallery, disturbing the campus and destroying the peace of the century-old Gokyo University, which will seriously affect the order of the school, or that he planned to use his advantage of being famous from the beginning to get some credits to graduate, but he did not expect that it would be exposed. Then he is tarnishing the school, tarnishing the education of China, which is extremely unfair to other exam-oriented students. Or, as analyzed by another group of people, Gokyo University is one of the few comprehensive universities with a balanced ratio of male and female students among the national key universities, and the proportion of female students in the School of Foreign Languages is relatively high, and the quality is also relatively high. Although the omnipotent Superman Qin Guang behaves very well in other aspects, his personal life does not seem to be so clean. In addition to the intermittent scandal with Jin Shirui, he and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard and even another beautiful vice president of the company, if there is no relationship between him and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard and even another beautiful vice president of the company, no one would believe that there is no relationship between him and his beautiful counselor, his classmates, his beautiful bodyguard and even another beautiful vice president of the company. I heard that he has many female confidants that he has yet to reveal. So, it is very likely that he really went there for the girls in the foreign languages department. The first half of Lu Xiaoyang's long summary was that no one believed that he could pass the exam normally. He must have some ulterior motive. The last 3 points of analysis were all extended from the core of the analysis. He could still express his emotions calmly in the first 2 points, but the third one was simply intolerable. Especially when Tang Ying, the beautiful vice president of the analysis team, was rolling her eyes at him, he couldn't just let this matter go. What kind of lousy logic is this? What kind of person do they think I am? I am such an upright person. Qin Guang slammed the table. Tang Ying rolled her eyes even more. In fact, she was quite guilty. Outsiders did not know much about Wu Tong, but she was clear that there was definitely something going on between Wu Tong and Qin Guang. Well, it seems that I am not really innocent. Why does no one believe that I really intend to take the exam and get some credits? It's just a small matter, but I have to make such a big deal out of it. This is ridiculous. Qin Guang slammed the table again. Across the country, there were at least 8 to 9 million, if not tens of millions, of students who signed up for elective courses. Signing up for an elective course was normal for others, but when it came to him, it became a big black mark. This matter was quite troubling for anyone. Okay, I know what happened. Everyone, let's think of a solution together. The time is now 7 p.m. We have to come up with a solution before 9 p.m., and then we will have a meeting to discuss what to do. If the situation does not improve by 10 p.m., and we can't come up with a solution, then we will first find someone to delete the post and ban it. Although there will be some consequences, we can't care too much about it. Qin Guang made the final decision for this meeting and then returned to his office. Tang Ying came in and chatted with him for a while, then she hurried back to the hospital. It was said that a research project she had been involved in was about to produce results, and she was actually quite busy. Sitting in his office, Qin Guang first browsed the internet for some news. He really could not come up with any good ideas, so he simply gathered his thoughts and took out the next course and began to study. When it was 8:40 p.m., he stretched and stood up from his leather chair. He stood beside the floor-to-ceiling window of his office and looked down at the people and the endless flow of cars. He felt a little emotional. In the past, he would not care about these rumors on the internet, but now that his family and status were not the same as before, he had fetters in his heart, and he could not bear to part with the glory, splendor, and wealth. He was no longer alone, but the brand of his company. He could not help but care about these things. During this period, he even received a call from Jin Shirui and Jiang Yage, asking if he needed their help to clean up the situation. Qin Guang shook his head and refused. There was essentially no difference between them and him looking for help. You can't just ignore this matter. You can't let this situation continue to spread. You have been in the limelight recently, and if you don't think of a way to control it, people may continue to spread this matter, and then it will be troublesome. Let's not talk about faraway things. The movie will officially start shooting at the end of this month, and your scenes will probably be finished in about 3 to 4 months. After that, you will have to promote it during the Spring Festival, and it will be released in March or April next year at the latest. At that time, your negative news will seriously affect the promotion of the movie. Recently, people have been calling for people to boycott the box office because of various things. This is really not a joke. The power of the netizens is greater than you can imagine. Jean Shuiwei said worriedly. Chapter 835. Jiang Yage also added fuel to the fire. Sister Shuiwei is right. You invested so much money in women. You can't expect us to increase the box office, right? That would be so shameful. Our dear Guangguang, can I interview you? What were you thinking at that time? Although Sister Shuiwei and I majored in music and performance and have never studied in a comprehensive university like yours, we have never seen anyone sign up for an elective course like this. There are 8 foreign languages. Qin Guang sighed. What interview? What could I think at that time? I just need a few credits so I can sign up for a few courses that I can definitely get. What's the big deal? Wait. What did you say just now? Jiang Yage was shocked. Jean Shuiwei leaned over as well, thinking that she had heard wrongly on the speaker. A course that's guaranteed to pass? Qin Guang snorted. Of course, don't tell me you think I'm just messing around. You mean you know all of those weird languages that are written in the news? Jean Shuiwei snatched the phone and asked. Qin Guang said, yes, I know all of them. I'm not bragging. Don't mess around. You don't have time to learn these. Jiang Yage poured cold water on him again. Qin Guang didn't have the mood to explain to them, and he couldn't explain it clearly. Anyway, I know. I knew it when I was born. No, one day when I was struck by lightning on the road, I knew it. I know all the foreign languages in the world. The 2 people on the other side of the phone thought they were listening to a science fiction story, but his tone didn't sound like he was joking at all, but what he said was so ridiculous. After a long time, Jean Shuiwei said, if what you said is true, I have an idea. What idea? It's about next week. I heard that there is a World Language Conference in Beijing. Recently, Solomon and I want to write 2 songs with some African elements, so we found a famous African composer. This is what she told us. World Language Conference? Qin Guang raised his eyebrows. He held the phone in one hand and typed on the keyboard with the other. A few seconds later, he saw the encyclopedia of this thing. The World Language Conference, also known as the World Applied Linguistics Conference, was a large-scale conference known as the Olympic Games of International Linguistics. It was held every 3 years and was a global academic event for applied linguistics. At this grand event, linguistic education experts from all over the world would conduct discussions. Not only would it reflect the current research hot spots in the discipline, but it would also record the history of the discipline's development. It would also be a window for the past host countries to showcase their research standards and cultural charm. That's right. We've also heard of something else. It's different from the past where it was just a simple discussion. In order to attract more young people's attention, the organizers of this year's conference in Beijing are even preparing to start a competition. When the time comes, it will probably be broadcasted live on Central TV's UNESCO channel. Master Guang's eyes lit up in an instant, just like a xenon lamp that had been illegally modified with a lens. It was dazzling. What the F***ck? It was as if the heavens were about to descend upon them to force them into a corner. This is the god of fate's favor. Is the bell of destiny my meat toilet? You're so good to me. I've just made a big fuss and I'm still lacking an idea to turn things around. It turns out that you've already prepared such a big stage for me. You're just waiting for me to make a rallying cry so that I can go and show off. How can I make all the doubters shut their mouths and turn their doubts into worship? In this world, is there anything more straightforward than going to the World Language Conference to show off? There's a national live broadcast to begin with, so he doesn't need to do it himself. This is a heaven-sent opportunity that saves time, effort, and worry. Apart from that, little Tsong, who is having a great time arguing with the famous director, should also be getting a lot of flaming. He probably needs some other big news to divert attention. Isn't that perfect? The old man is here to give you another topic to talk about. This is great. He was instantly overjoyed and slammed the table. Actually, our composer friend was going to participate in this competition, but, Jean Shirue said again. Qin Guang's heart tightened. What's wrong? I heard that the organizers' budget is tight. After all, if they want to invite participants from all over the world to Beijing, there will be at least 1,000 of them. Each person's airfare, accommodation, food and other expenses will add up to tens of millions of RMB. You know, this kind of academic conference usually doesn't get any strong sponsors. I'll sponsor. Without any hesitation, Qin Guang slammed his hand on the table and made the final decision. It wasn't that he was generous to the point that he didn't care about money, but his countless experiences in the past had taught him that these things might seem like burning money for nothing, but as long as he had his signature dish on the table, he would definitely make a profit. Furthermore, so what if he really made a loss? As long as the hype was good, through this conference he would be able to use indisputable facts to announce to the world that the almighty Superman in front of them, Qin Guang, was not a guy with all brawn and no brains. He was the most powerful language master in the history of mankind. There was no language on this earth that he didn't know. Then the god statue of the language master, the world in the cup, was about to appear. In terms of English alone, it was too difficult to gain widespread recognition and build up the image of a god in a cup. There was no quantitative standard for whether one's English was good or not, and it was even harder to gain recognition than playing the piano. But what if it became 4,978 languages? Who would dare to not accept it? Who in the world could be a match for him? Qin Guang would never have dreamed that a small matter like signing up for 8 minor language elective courses in school would lead to the opportunity to create a new god statue. This could only be said that he was destined to put on a good show. He couldn't defy fate. Most importantly, this wasn't an ordinary god statue of the world in the spirit-seeing cup. This was the first time he had the opportunity to establish a god statue of the second stage of the heavenly Holy Grail, the one-line heavenly cup. Although he didn't know what was special about the one-line heavenly god statue, it wasn't important. The power of the world in the cup was more than 10 times that of the first stage, the one-line heavenly god statue. He would naturally find out when the time came. I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be rich. After chatting with Jean Shirue and Jiang Yage for dozens of seconds, Qin Guang hung up the phone and walked out of the office in high spirits. He waved his hand and said, "Everyone come to the conference room. I have a big plan." The hundreds of employees of Tianguang Agency, who were working overtime until their faces were pale, were instantly invigorated. Fong Tianyu, who was scratching his head but still couldn't come up with a feasible and creative solution, was even more teary-eyed. "Director Chen, I really don't want to admit it, but when I see you in such high spirits, I suddenly have a pillar of support in my heart." Lu Xiaoyang was secretly hating that he had accidentally let Fong Tianyu take the lead again. Director Chen is mighty. Although he didn't know what ideas Qin Guang had, it was definitely a good idea to suck up to him first. Yu Hong felt a little awkward. After all, he was already so old and couldn't be as shameless as those two. All right, don't be in such a hurry to suck up to me. Everyone come to the conference room." Qin Guang waved his hand and rolled his eyes. He said, "Oh right, everyone has worked hard today. Other than the company's middle management, the rest of the employees can get off work. And this month's overtime pay will be increased by 1,000 each to calm down. Everyone can go home and explain to their wives and children." "Hey, Director Chen, single female employees don't have wives and children." A pretty female clerk teased. "Oh, I see. Come to my office tomorrow to talk about life. It's really like what the rumors say. We have a perverted director." However, everyone knew that Director Chen was joking. He was very picky, and those who caught his eye were not just beautiful. Beauty was not enough, they also had to be capable. After joking with the employees, Qin Guang called all the company's middle management into the conference room. The chief of the cleaning department, Chu Hanji, was actually sitting in the last row. He held a small notebook in his hand and looked like he was ready for battle. Qin Guang didn't even want to ridicule him. Actually, after such a long time, the Guangdong General Administration's employees in the company had already left and moved to the Guangdong General Administration's office building on the other side. Now the 2 treasures and 1 candy only had about 1/3 of the Guangdong General Administration's underground gang members. According to Qin Guang's own thoughts, Chu Hanji should have gone there long ago. He didn't know what was going on in his mind. He was still shamelessly staying in his own company. It was obvious that he wanted to earn 2 salaries. How shameful. Alright, I have an idea. I just received news that there will be a World Language Conference in Beijing next week. You guys can find out what this conference is about. What I want to say is that they are going to organize a competition, but they lack sponsorship. My request is very simple. We will sponsor it ourselves and I will participate. If I win this competition, then today's problem will be solved easily. I can even turn passivity into initiative and turn all the negative information on the internet into flattery for me. Money has to be earned. Reputation, I also have to get it back. You guys have to think of a way to talk to them and get the whole conference into your pocket. We can't sponsor for nothing. How to use this conference to operate a good business model to make profits is your business. If it's possible, you guys should go there by tomorrow at the latest. Also, Old You, Old Fong, and Dog 3, you 3 better find a way to contact the conference organizer today and express our intentions. At the same time, you can also appropriately reveal my identity so that they won't have any thoughts of canceling the competition. Alright, dismissed. This was the advantage of being a boss. He could set the tone. As for the other trivial matters, naturally he would let others handle them. After Qin Guang finished speaking, he planned to leave. Oh my, I really want to go home and read. Lu Xiaoyang hurriedly stood up and asked, That? Boss, although I'm not very clear about the specific model of the competition you mentioned, but since the conference is called the World Language Conference, there should be experts from all over the world, right? I heard that some people are born with the Broca area in their brains that is related to language learning is especially developed. They know dozens or even hundreds of languages. Boss, do we need to do something behind the scenes? Qin Guang waved his hand heroically, and an extremely arrogant and confident smile appeared on his face. I don't even care about you. Dozens or even hundreds of languages. It's not even enough for me, your boss. After saying that, he turned around and left without staying any longer. I can't take it anymore. I'm about to lose control of my pretentiousness. I feel like my whole body is about to burn up. Only knowledge can calm me down. Chapter 836. Until his figure disappeared into the elevator, everyone in the meeting room was dumbfounded. Chu Hanji was the only one who had the right to comment on Qin Guang's bragging. However, he couldn't say it because it was confidential. Not long ago, Qin Guang had helped Wu Tong arrest several World Shatter assassins during a piano performance in Beijing. At that time, Qin Guang's knowledge of Tubermuru, an unpopular foreign language, was classified as confidential. Only a few people in China had the right to access it. Because Chu Hanji was also in the Guangding headquarters and was loyal to Qin Guang, he was qualified to know about Qin Guang's matters so that he could cooperate with Qin Guang better. In his heart, he knew that Chief Qin might not be bragging and victory was in his grasp. He even knew Tubermuru, which was used as a trump card by the World Shatter. It was only natural for him to know other languages. You people don't understand how powerful Chief Qin is. He had intended to take notes in his notebook, but he subconsciously wrote down a huge word that took up an entire page. This was handsome. When Qin Guang parked his car in the district's car park, it was already past 10 p.m. He held the cup in his hand as he walked along the district's walkway. The autumn wind blew on his body, and the streetlights on both sides of the road were dim, casting a long shadow on the ground. Qin Guang kept stepping on his own shadow, but he couldn't reach the end. He didn't feel tired, but he felt annoyed. Regardless of how others looked at him, he felt that he was different from the past. When he was poor and ordinary, he had ordinary worries and pain, and he always wanted to change his life himself and his family. But unknowingly, a few months had passed and the cup in his hand had changed him too much. When everything was no longer the same, he would occasionally think of his ordinary self and miss the past. Being poor was good, but being rich was vexing. He shook his head and felt that this was a problem that needed to be treated. When he was down and out, he fantasized that he was omnipotent. But when he became rich, he would miss the carefree life. How could people do as they pleased? To live in this world, one had to deal with all kinds of people and all kinds of things. How could there be so many bad habits? He took out the key and opened the door. There were 2 uninvited guests in the house. They were Xin Qin and Wu Miaoan, the 2 deputy directors who were supposed to be at the Guangding General Bureau. Xin Qin was wearing a white chiffon short-sleeved pajama top, which was probably unbuttoned. Her lower body was also wearing a set of loose chiffon pajama pants, which looked a little translucent. However, she still had a bit of integrity and she was still wearing undergarments. Wu Miaoan and Xianxia were about the same, but they were dressed in emerald green attire, which gave them a different kind of charm. The two of them had been busy for 2 days. The Guangding General Bureau seemed to have finally digested all the information they had gathered from the world of destruction. It was rare for them to take a break, so Qin Guang did not teach them a lesson. Instead, he looked at them quietly at the door. When his eyes were comfortable, he walked forward and coughed twice. I say, the two of you should control yourselves. Don't tear my sofa apart. Now that I've bought these 2 houses, they'll be mine in the future. Save me some energy. Xianxia and Wu Miaoan stopped what they were doing and sat down on the sofa obediently. Oh, the director has spoken. So scary, so scary. Xianxia chuckled. Wu Miaoan looked Qin Guang up and down. Wait, something doesn't seem right. Am I seeing things? She rubbed her eyes again. After a long time, she stared at Qin Guang and pounced forward. Qin Guang was ambushed by her. He leaned back and lay on the other sofa. What are you doing? Wu Miaoan pointed at Qin Guang's face in horror. Then she turned to Xianxia and exclaimed, Oh my God! This guy has inner force. He had it yesterday, but my brain was a little stiff at that time. I couldn't react in time. Xianxia's interest was piqued. She leaned forward and stared at Qin Guang's face. From time to time she would put her hand on Qin Guang's pulse. He really has inner force. How did you do it? The two of them could not help but be shocked. Unlike others, they had watched Qin Guang practice the painting manual from scratch. Although this guy was strange and unconventional, and there were always some parts of his body that would mysteriously improve, he was still within the range of a normal human. But not long ago, maybe 3 or 4 days ago, when everyone was still in Utopia, this guy had recovered the memories of the Grand Magister Reichen from his previous life. It was understandable that he had the power to destroy the world. After all, that was in his previous life. It was not surprising that a Grand Magister had such abilities. At that time his body, especially his chest and abdomen, looked quite weak. He was a little stronger than an ordinary person, but he was still far from being able to practice inner force. But only a few days had passed and this guy suddenly had inner force in his stomach. Look at his hands, his feet, his head, his waist, and the feel of his 8-pack. Cough cough. In short, this guy had no shortcomings. He was perfect and flawless. This was ridiculous. However, Qin Guang didn't have the time to respond to Xianxia's words. Instead, he was looking left and right. He had a feeling that the two of them were probably using the pretense of being curious about his internal energy, but in reality, they were using despicable and wretched methods to seduce him. Look at these two. They're immoral. You know that I'm weak, but you're still crawling in front of me. Are you trying to test me? As it turned out, Wu Miaoan, who was crawling on top of him, was right in front of him. Her collar was wide open and he could see straight inside. Wu Miaoan might not be tall and her body was thin, but her pockets were full of goods. Because of her unguarded movements, 2 bright white hemispheres appeared clearly in front of Qin Guang's eyes. As she moved from time to time, her collar swayed left and right, causing the 2 indescribable dots to appear and disappear under Qin Guang's sharp gaze. Logically speaking, the combination of the green veil and Wu Miaoan's innocent expression that seemed to be focused on something else made it more tempting to commit a crime than not fully clothed. There was a charm in her innocence, a shyness in her charm, and a boldness in her shyness. It was rather indescribable. No, I can't take it anymore. I can't look anymore. With that thought in mind, Qin Guang turned his face to the other side. There's a wolf in the front and a tiger in the back. It's impossible to guard against them. Wu Miaoan was already ferocious enough, but Xianxia on the other side was even more shameless. Her collar was even more open than Wu Miaoan's, and her posture was even more domineering. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing left. The undulating peaks and surging waves made for a beautiful scene. Alright, in a sense, the relationship between him and Xianxia had opened up to a whole new level. It was as if this was the first time he was able to look at Xianxia's tender body at such a close distance. Felt quite special. This was different from the time when Xianxia ambushed him while he was bathing. At that time he was still guilty and didn't dare to look too much. Xianxia had exposed herself a few times, but most of the time she had evil intentions and was after his painting scroll. At that time he was guarding against her like a thief. Now his mentality was different. Things were different now. He didn't have any psychological burden when he used his eyes to take advantage of her. He was just worried that his physique couldn't keep up. Back when he was refueling her in midair, he didn't have much time and energy to be intimate with her, nor did he have the time to savor her. Everything happened too quickly. Even now when he thought about it, it felt surreal, like a dream. If he had the chance one day, he would probably be able to relive his old dream under normal circumstances. But looking at little Xianxia, she seems to be calmer than me. Her attitude hasn't changed much from before. It's a little hurtful and depressing. That's impossible. I'm a pile driver. You look like you've just been bitten by a mosquito. I can't help but feel that something's wrong. All right. Let me get up. What's so strange about it? The old man can even learn magic. What's so special about inner force? When the old man was in the other world, he could read at the age of 1, communicate with the elements at the age of 1.5, recite spells at the age of 2, become a magic apprentice at the age of 3, an advanced magician at the age of 15, and a magister before the age of 30. All the cultivation methods in this world, whether it's my magic or the inner force in this world, are similar. As long as I want to learn it, it's as easy as blowing off dust. Qin Guang struggled to straighten his body from the sofa and said righteously. Compared to the past, Qin Guang had a new way of bragging in front of these two people. The genius great magician was always so unreasonable, so blunt, but without reason. I don't care if you believe it or not, I believe it first. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan almost believed it. Wu Miaowan pulled up his coat and continued to stare at his chest and abdomen. She gasped. This is the legendary innate martial sage body. Are you really a magician and not a warrior who cultivates battle energy? Qin Guang learned a new term. It sounded overbearing, but he didn't know if it was the innate martial sage body that she was talking about. However, it's definitely not an innate martial sage body. This is the reward for bringing you guys on a journey and fighting monsters in the punishment realm. How can you mortals understand my hard work and sacrifice? As for Wu Miaowan's rambling about battle energy, he decided to pretend that he didn't hear it. This girl must have gone to read some fantasy novels. Forget it. I have to give her a reasonable explanation. Chapter 837. Qin Guang stood up again. The aura of Grand Magister Reichen was once again possessed by him. He walked to the window with his hands behind his back and took a deep breath. That's right. Two beautiful ladies, you didn't see wrongly. My body has undergone some changes, and it has been since a long time ago. At that time I didn't understand the reason, but now I know. This is the legacy that my previous life, Reichen, left for me in this life. Compared to ordinary mages, the biggest advantage of a Grand Magister is that he can turn his body into a vessel for elemental power. Every Grand Magister has a body that is perhaps unparalleled in this world. What's more, I, Reichen, am a rare genius. When I died in my previous life, I had already broken through the shackles of a Grand Magister and became an existence equivalent to a god in another world. In other words, I am an elemental controller. I have the legendary sacred elemental body. The moment I recovered my memory in that world, the sacred elemental body that I obtained from practicing magic painstakingly in my previous life also awakened. After we left that world, my body completely became the sacred elemental body, which is what you see now. This body is probably the last treasure that I brought back from my hometown world. In this world where magical elemental power is thin, my magic is completely useless. You guys are talking to me about the innate martial sage body that I don't understand. If I don't make up an even more awesome title of sacred elemental body, I won't be able to control the situation. Anyway, the already F***Ketup Dolua world is structured according to my thoughts. According to idealism, that world no longer exists. If I say that there is a sacred elemental body, then there really is one. Anyway, I've already talked about the Grand Magister. If I continue to bluff Reichen, it would be more reasonable than the heavenly Holy Grail. At least there would be some cause and effect, and it would be easier for the two to be convinced. The same trick worked as expected. It worked again. Xianxia and Wu Miaowan were fooled by him. Great Magister Right, don't be sad. Don't you still have us? Wu Miaowan was so touched that she threw herself at Qin Guang. Xianxia also looked at him with tears in her eyes. Let bygones be bygones. Don't live in the past. Look forward to the future. Qin Guang nodded. That's right. That's why I have to learn the cultivation method of this world, which is inner force, just like how I studied magic in my previous life. But we want to learn magic. Wu Miaowan's evil intentions had never died. Qin Guang smiled coolly and said, "It doesn't matter. Please take off your pants first and let the old man and your excellency have a deep exchange of body fluids. In this way you will be able to feel the extremely thin magic elements in this world through the old man." Ahem, Mr. Director, please be a little more reserved. Xiao Miao Miao is still a child. Bah. Aren't you two childhood friends? She's an adult when she's with you, but she's a child when she's with Wu Miaowan. She's causing trouble. Although Xin Qin was quite magnanimous, she wasn't completely without her own thoughts. Qin Guang was anxious. However, he was just saying it. Although Wu Miaowan was bold with her words, he didn't know what kind of unorthodox methods she had learned from her master, Wu Qingming. She just had to keep him in suspense, making him feel like he could push her down in the next second. She seduced him in all sorts of ways, but he couldn't touch her even though he could see her. Qin Guang felt that Wu Qingming didn't teach her anything good. She must be using the unorthodox methods of a vixen to deceive men. Moreover, outsiders had been saying that his private life had been very promiscuous recently, and he was under quite a lot of psychological pressure. He would continue tormenting himself when he was free for a while. All right. I know you're stingy, so I'm not in a hurry. However, Mr. Big Chrysanthemum Head, do you want to see what realm of martial artist you're at now? Wu Miaowan rolled her eyes. She knew that Qin Guang was feeling uncomfortable when she saw his excited yet reserved expression. She smiled and changed the topic, finding out what Qin Guang was most concerned about. As expected, his eyes lit up. Sure. How? But can't the two of you see through the realm of those who are weaker than you at a glance? Xin Qin rolled her eyes in annoyance. Ordinary martial artists can do that, but you are cultivating the painting scroll. Your aura is restrained and condensed. If you don't take the initiative to release your inner force, I really can't see your realm from your appearance and aura. Is the painting manual that powerful? Qin Guang asked. Wu Miaowan said enviously, of course. Otherwise, why would the Wen family be able to roam the pugilistic world for so many years without being defeated? Even though they've been relatively lonely for the past few years, they're still one of the three great families that no one dares to look down on. Isn't that because of the ingenuity of the painting manual? That's right. You're so stingy, Big Chrysanthemum Head. You didn't teach us magic properly, and you didn't even reveal a bit of your inner force. Tell me, why are little Miao Miao and I so unlucky to have an ingrate like you? Compared to magic, Xin Qin seemed to be more interested in Qin Guang's painting manual. It seemed that the two of them had different preferences. At the same time, Qin Guang also felt embarrassed by her words. He was a little tempted in his heart, but the painting manual belonged to someone else, and Wen only gave it to him because she trusted him. So how could he give it to someone else as a favor? You guys, don't make things difficult for me. Qin Guang was extremely frustrated. Alright, I know you're picky, but it doesn't matter. Cut the crap and make your move. Wu Miaowan bounced back and spun in the air before landing in a corner of the living room. She faced Qin Guang and got into a fighting stance. Qin Guang took a deep breath and circulated his inner force according to the painting manual's incantation, adjusting his qi. In an instant he felt a warm current flowing from the depths of his dantian to his limbs and bones like water. Everywhere it passed he felt a cool aura, especially in his limbs. He could feel his muscles bulging slightly. Although he did not deliberately exert any force, he could clearly feel that his strength was much stronger than the Qilin arm he once had. It was said that it trained the muscles, bones, and skin on the outside, while the essence, qi, and spirit were trained internally. Essence, qi, and spirit were a trinity. Even for someone without inner force, their mental state would change according to the state of their body and willpower. Therefore, martial artists usually use the external muscles, bones, and skin to describe their realm. It was precisely because after the inner force was generated, the qi would gradually grow stronger as one's skills became more profound. Whether it was when one was walking or deliberately circulating one's qi during a fight, different levels of inner force would have obvious effects on a martial artist's strength. The stronger one's strength was, the stronger the inner force qi would be. A martial artist's body would also undergo subtle changes due to the long years of nourishment from the qi. After mastering skin force, a martial artist's entire body would be enveloped by an invisible force when he stimulated his inner force qi. This force was as thin as a cicada's wing, but it could be manipulated at will. When faced with harm, it could not only slow down the impact, but powerful martial artists could even form a spiral on the surface of their body to block cuts and attacks. This was why Skin Force martial artists were almost invulnerable in the eyes of ordinary people. Therefore, in the past, Wenwen or Xianxia had the absolute ability to suppress Qin Guang, who was still an ordinary person at that time. Even without circulating their inner force, the two of them were on a completely different realm in terms of physical strength. Since mastering inner force, this was the first time Qin Guang had stimulated his qi in an attempt to fight. He could not help but feel a little excited. He widened his eyes and looked at Wu Miaowan in front of him. "Then I'm coming." Wu Miaowan nodded and clapped her hands. "Come on. It seems like this is your first time and you don't look very powerful. Just attack me with all your might and I'll test your strength. Don't hold back or I'll be angry with you." "All right." As soon as Qin Guang finished speaking, he instantly appeared in front of Wu Miaowan and punched her abdomen with his iron fist without holding back. Seeing that she seemed to be quite confident, Qin Guang also felt that she was at the peak of bone force, and that he who had just grasped the door would definitely not be able to hurt her. Therefore he attacked with all his might. Who would have thought that this punch of his would actually cause a sonic boom? Wu Miaowan's eyes widened as she exclaimed, "What the f***ck?" The momentum of Qin Guang's punch scared her out of her wits. Before his fist could even get close to her, her face was already bruised by the force of his punch. She did not dare to take it head-on like she said she would. She immediately gathered her qi and her body became as light as a cicada's feather. She floated backward along with the force of Qin Guang's punch. Just as she was about to crash into the wall, she suddenly turned and barely dodged Qin Guang's punch. The force of his punch, which had lost its target, slammed into the wall with a loud, deafening boom. In an instant, a hole the size of a casserole appeared in the wall, kicking up a cloud of dust. "You're trying to kill me." Wu Miaowan landed far away, panting heavily. She was drenched in cold sweat. Qin Guang was also stunned. His fist was clearly more than a meter away from the wall, but this wall— oh my god, my wall. My newly bought house. My heart hurts. What the hell is this? Why is it that my fist, which I've just learned, is completely different from the two muscle gene martial artists I've met before? Am I that strong? Xianxia also pounced over from the side. She stared blankly at the neat hole in the wall and only came back to her senses after a while. She turned to look at Qin Guang and spat out a word, "Monster." "Hey, don't just complain about me. Hurry up and comment. What level am I at?" Qin Guang also poked his head over. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't looked, but his heart ached even more when he did. Behind the wall was his bedroom and it seemed to be where the wall-mounted TV was. He didn't need to go in to know the situation inside to know that the flat-screen TV was most likely far away. Damn it, thank goodness this isn't a load-bearing wall. Forget it. That punch probably cost 20 to 30,000 yuan. At that moment, a wave of cursing came from the balcony upstairs. "What are you doing downstairs? Tearing down a building in the middle of the night? Can't you let me sleep?" Qin Guang, Xianxia, and Wu Miaowan knew they were in the wrong, so they shrunk their necks and didn't confront the people upstairs. It was a little too late. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.